Imagine a world where money and absolute power can buy you absolutely anything. But a broke nobody suddenly appears and starts completely wrecking everyone in his way. Even thrashed guys who hit women, Valhalla Academy is a top-tier hunter institute. Every single year, countless hunters try to enter this school, but with a success rate of 1 in 500, few survive, and even among those lucky few, only 150 students ever graduate. As you can see, the difficulty is just as brutal as real life, right from the first day of class. Things are incredibly chaotic, and absolutely anything goes. We see people with nothing but their bare fists fighting against opponents with sharp swords. Watching them is the veteran combat instructor, Lee Sang-kyeol. Soon, a man named Yoo Min-jun arrives to inspect the star candidate from his family, who deserves all the hype. That is Yoo So-hyun from the Yuuzhan family, one of the 5 elite clans in Korea. She completely crushes anyone in her way with her legendary mana and incredible sword mastery. She is highly promising, but the instructor remains completely unimpressed until someone mentions that her elite family has communicated directly with a legendary constellation guardian. This immediately catches the instructor's attention. In this world, there are 5 chosen ones who serve as constellation guardians. It is totally normal for hunters to receive powerful blessings and protection from these divine beings through contracts. Each of these 5 guardians possesses a completely different power. The Yuuzhan family boasts the god of the sword, Jang San has the god of spirits, Jin Choi has martial arts, while the Oyen family holds the god of fists, Jian family, the god of the bow. Yu Yian, having communicated, is considered an absolute genius with massive potential. Passing the academy test should be a breeze for her. The stakes are so high that the entire world is tuned in live. This young 17-year-old prodigy's battle will be against Kim Jua, who is also 17 years old. The instructors are surprised to see how incredibly relaxed the boy is despite knowing his famous opponent, believing in an easy victory. The fight begins. She draws her sword, but there is no sign of the boy. She lunges forward, unleashing an incredible display of swordsmanship and expert mana control, making her strike incredibly precise. But get this, he simply punches her right in the chest, ending the fight instantly. Our protagonist seems almost disappointed by the easy victory. Now we jump back 300 years into the past. 3 centuries ago, a legendary battle shook the Tower of Destruction. 2 men fought with ultimate bravery. The ruler of the King of Destruction, Brace, noted it was an epic clash, leaving the exhausted martial leader, Kim Hyanino, severely weakened. Brace wore odd blue glasses and had massive white hair. Kim Hai agreed the fight was excellent and let out a soft chuckle. Then Kim Hyanino snapped to attention as a holographic panel popped up right in front of him. It declared that the Tower of Destruction and its ruler, Brace, were finally defeated, saving humanity from total annihilation. The massive structure began cracking loudly. Kim Hae and Oh realized the building was collapsing right after the victory. Groaning in intense pain, he lamented that this was supposed to be his long-awaited chance at complete peace. Since childhood, he had worked to the bone just to survive, but now all his dreams of wealth, fame, and a quiet life were crumbling before his eyes now. He nearly brought his disciples, but changed his mind because of the threat ahead. That enemy was the absolute strongest opponent he had ever faced, and everyone would have surely died. Holding his fatal wound, he bids farewell to the world as his body slowly begins to disintegrate. Suddenly, his eyes snap open. Kim Hyun-woo has reincarnated. He is now in scrawny Kim Ju-Hyuk's body. 300 years have passed since the tower collapsed, making this a pretty great era. Even though his physical body is weak, all his legendary knowledge remains. He believed that by simply adapting to this body, he could live in peace. But that peaceful dream shatters. A translucent screen pops up, warning him that in 5 years, the Tower of Destruction will return. What a pain. He is furious because he thought that terrible threat had already been completely destroyed. He regrets not burning Brace's corpse, but crying over spilled milk won't help. In this modern era, clearing the tower should actually be a whole lot easier. And this time around, he is fully determined to survive and actually enjoy life. A new notification pops up. He stands there completely baffled. It mentions retrieving lost weapons and memories within the Valhalla constellation room. Located down in the third basement, his next move becomes crystal clear. Today marks the 4th day at Valhalla Academy, where the top 10 rankings are decided. All summoned cadets are ordered to make their way to the main arena. Ju-Hyuk heads over with pure excitement as all the participants take their positions. The crowd is buzzing, eagerly watching everything unfold. Watching closely, the senior instructor notes this batch has way too many cadets. From above, he observes, ready to spot any true talent. Our newcomer Ju-Hyuk stands ready, with only 30 seconds remaining on the clock. His opponent stands right before him, the eldest son of the prestigious Osun family. This 17-year-old named Osihu is absolutely terrible at academics, strategy, or martial arts. Yet he possesses a physical cheat code that easily puts him above the rest. An incredibly robust physique allows him to accomplish feats without using any mana. With only minimal training, he manages to grow exponentially stronger day by day. Born with a god-tier body requiring zero effort, everyone naturally labels him a genius. He glares fiercely at Ju-Hyuk, radiating pure arrogance and absolute rage. As the two square off, Ju-Hyuk casually flips him the bird. This insulting gesture drives Osihu completely mad, sending him into a blind rage. He charges forward, screaming insults, while Ju-Hyuk calmly assesses his current physical limits. With this weak body, winning a head-on clash of raw strength is highly unlikely. Plus, he knows nothing about his opponent, making physical power his main hurdle. But hey, superior physical strength doesn't automatically guarantee a victory. Osihu throws a heavy, devastating punch directly at our calm protagonist. Ju-Hyuk easily evades, relying on ancient body-enhancing martial arts and a crucial secret. He sweeps the cocky bully's legs, sending him crashing hard onto the stone floor. Osihu lies there, completely dazed. He has no idea what just happened. Winking cheekily, Ju-Hyuk triggers his special observation skill to read him. He lands a perfectly precise counterstrike, making the bully roll his eyes in agony. Spitting blood, the arrogant genius collapses onto the cold ground, completely unconscious. Ju-Hyuk wins. Harmony between these two traits was absolutely key. Normally, that victory would have been absolutely impossible, especially since his current body is so weak. Yet he should still easily handle hunting monsters, just like in the past. After completely wiping out his enemy, he calmly headed straight for the exit. The crowd watched in complete shock, whispering about how Asuk got knocked out so incredibly fast. To be defeated by such a simple attack, in the back one man watched. He was the head of the Osun family, the legendary King of Fists, Achol Shin. The King of Fists was absolutely furious at the ignorant crowd for calling that clean strike simple. Sure, his son Asuk only trained his physical body while completely ignoring martial arts. He still should have easily dodged that strike, but this time it was impossible. Stigako had completely let his raging temper flare up and blindly charged straight at Ju-Hyuk. He even unleashed some rare, powerful magic, trying his absolute best to end the fight instantly. But Ju-Hyuk simply tilted his head to the side, letting the heavy strike miss completely. Certain his blow would land, Asuk completely shifted his balance forward. This mistake sent him flying, utterly shocked that his punch missed. His hand remained completely open and extended, leaving him wide open for a counter. This proved that Ju-Hyuk moved much faster than Huck at his absolute maximum speed. He already had a brilliant plan mapped out, showing a truly monstrous, unmatched level of talent. Achol Shin processed all of this in silence, deeply impressed. Unfortunately, other experts also recognized the massive value of this rookie. Achul Shin remembered the name Kim Ju-Hyuk and resolved to recruit the boy, whatever the cost. He resolved to ensure the young boy would join his family, regardless of the immense price. Wait for it, the stadium lights flared to life as Aren's fans cheered wildly. Kim Ju-Hyuk was pretty amused by these grown men acting like total lunatics. Military veterans, they screamed wildly for a 17-year-old girl. Now it was finally time for the absolute final ranked match of the entire event. Kim Ju-Hyuk was set to fight Choi Aren, the famous daughter of the Cho-jin family. As the match began, she instantly drew her blade, ready to strike first. But Kim Ju-Hyuk simply stood and faced her, his expression remaining completely calm, relaxed, and utterly serene. The two stood perfectly still in absolute silence, neither made a single move. He quickly assumed she was waiting for him to make the first move. At least she was trying to read the situation, making her better than his past opponents. He chuckled softly to himself, wondering exactly how he should handle this fight at that moment. Quietly, he strolled toward his guarded opponent, keeping an incredibly sharp eye on her. With his hands casually in his pockets, she stared right back, completely fearless. She gripped her heavy sword with intense determination. Flashes of blue lightning erupted around her, leaving the entire crowd deeply impressed. At just 17 years old, she had already mastered her family's elemental ability. She charged straight forward with all her courage, but Kim Ju-Hyuk barely even reacted at all. He took a tiny step forward, giving her the perfect opportunity to strike. She swung her blade instantly, unleashing a massive torrent of blue lightning. The power was incredible, but she froze in shock as her opponent vanished. Vanishing instantly, his calm voice suddenly echoed right beside her. Whispering calmly, he noted that telegraphing her targets with her eyes made dodging incredibly simple. Standing right next to her, he remained completely relaxed as she completely panicked. Suddenly, a heavy blow struck her body, and her eyes widened in shock. Despite the intense agony, she felt relieved that she successfully blocked the strike. Kim Ju-Hyuk stared at her in total silence. Choi Aren quickly gripped her impressive sword and flew backward with it. Kim Ju-Hyuk actually found himself impressed because she managed to block his strike with her sword. That is why he did not feel the impact of hitting flesh, but rather a solid object. She felt it was incredibly heavy. Suddenly, a fist slammed right into her blade. Choi Aren stared at her opponent, who smugly challenged her to dodge his next move. Then he unleashed a devastating strike, sending her flying backward with a look of desperation. She crashed onto the ground, left sprawled out in the dirt. The boy sensed something odd about his own attack, feeling like his posture was slightly off. In the end, it did not matter since the victory was already secured. The holographic panel displayed the top 10 admissions to Valhalla, placing Kim Ju-Hyuk first. He walked away while rolling his shoulder when suddenly, loud voices caught him completely off guard. A massive crowd gathered, begging for his attention to join their guilds. Highly annoyed, he yelled at everyone to shut up, ending that crazy scene. Soon, a viral news headline claimed Kim Ju-Hyuk was on the verge of madness, calling him a total psychopath. 92 comments bashed him, claiming he must be a terrible person because of his reckless actions. For a mere rookie, the boy was incredibly arrogant and over the top, sparking endless debates about his toxic attitude. Meanwhile, inside the grand towering structures of Valhalla, the new freshman received a warm welcome. Kim Ju-Hyuk found the academy's long history lesson painfully boring and tedious. That was when he noticed a nervous kid staring from behind. The boy quickly looked away, looking incredibly shy. Kim Ju-Hyuk figured he had drawn too much attention during yesterday's exam. Still, there remained one major unresolved mystery: that bizarre notification about weapons and memories, which the system demanded earlier. On his way, Kim Ju-Hyuk assumed he only had to slip in and grab it, a seemingly simple task, but then he spotted an unexpected crowd By then, the boring opening ceremony had finally finished, the virtual combat training room lay right ahead, the former chief instructor of Valhalla. Representing the Trojan Guild, Kim Leon, wondered why this class was distributed. So weirdly, ahead sat Yu Yan from the Yuzan family, and beside her stood Aren from the Trojan clan. Right between them stood Ju-Hyuk from the Asen group. They claimed the class assignments were completely random, but 3 of the 5 legendary prodigies ended up in this exact room, plus there was another intriguing detail. The instructor glanced at Kim Ju-Hyuk, realizing he was also here, which basically doomed this entire class. He tried to compose himself to take control of the room immediately. He introduced himself, saying it was a pleasure to meet the young rookies as their official head instructor. He walked up to the podium and casually pressed a single button. Suddenly, everyone panicked at what happened next. Suddenly, they all appeared in a vast field. Everyone began questioning where they were, having been inside a normal classroom just a second ago. Kim Leon gripped his sword's hilt, planning to unleash a wave of pure blood. Lust, suddenly, a pack of hideous and terrifying demonic beasts materialized. Appeared filled with fury and wielding various weapons. Everyone began screaming in absolute panic. Kim Ju-Hyuk realized these beasts were only orcs and goblins, and there were easily over 100. Suddenly, the ugly green monster lunged directly toward him. One tried to slash with sharp claws while another tried to leap at him, only to be stopped by the solid protective barrier. Kim Legon felt everything was going according to his original plan. As the barrier held, the instructor called Kim Ju-Hyuk closer. Approaching the podium, the boy was promptly asked by the instructor if he could handle all those monsters entirely on his own. These were the beasts surrounding the barrier. The boy thought silently about his answer. Kim Legon reasoned that he was certain the boy was terrified, which made sense since most had only ever seen monsters in books and novels. He told Kim Ju-Hyuk to stop pretending to think and just say no so they could proceed. The boy simply gave a slight smirk. This made the instructor angry because the boy was laughing at him. He soon realized Ju-Hyuk could indeed handle the monsters alone, assuming the boy was bluffing and telling him to try since he seemed so confident. But Kim Ju-Hyuk questioned him, saying such a thing cannot be done on day 1 without a proper reward for the mission. With that, the boy was really speaking his language and was quickly asked what he wanted to bet. At that moment, he replied that if he cleared them, the instructor must fulfill any wish within his power. Talk about high stakes. The boy rested his hand on his chin, thinking it over before accepting the massive deal. The instructor tried to intimidate him, but the boy simply asked for a sword, since fighting barehanded against a horde was absolutely impossible. He immediately reached out. The instructor placed his hand on his own blade to hand it over. Kim Ju-Hyuk examined the weapon with an exceptionally thrilled and excited expression. He slung it on his back, ready for the massive challenge ahead. The instructor watched him with a highly gloomy expression while the other students watched, completely entertained by the match. Kim Ju-Hyuk firmly gripped the weapon and began to fight fiercely against the monstrous beings, carving through them with intense, angry determination. As he eliminated every opponent in his path, suddenly a beast tried to strike him from behind, but the boy swiftly gripped his weapon and blocked the cowardly blow without a single moment of hesitation. He realized he was doing pretty well, considering it had been 300 years since his last real battle. Back then, because of monsters, humans struggled to survive, using every kind of weapon to slay them. Even so, the sword remained a highly familiar tool. He watched closely, having already noticed something incredibly strange. Another beast was attempting to ambush him mercilessly from behind, but Kim Ju-Hyuk easily avoided the strike. Unbelievable, he dodged it so smoothly. Everything went as imagined, following a simple pattern. This was merely a well-programmed simulation of NPC beasts. Inside the room, everyone watched him in shock, Kim Lagon thought. It was utterly impossible, especially since he had only lent him a cheap, useless blade. He had zero magic or speed, yet the boy cut through everything. Easily, masterfully, it looked as if his blade was literally devouring. Those vile monsters, the girl watching stood completely frozen in shock. He calmly reflected on the madness. She kept watching from inside her. Protective capsule, totally still, not a single word escaped her lips. Her face filled with sheer disbelief. Then, Kim Ju-Hyuk demanded to enter the constellation room, calling his opponents weak garbage. He walked off, heading for the barrier, but first he asked if the instructor would keep his promise, visibly irritating the man. Outside, the sun was slowly setting behind the towering skyscrapers. Kim Leon dismissed the class, telling the exhausted students to go rest. No hanging around. Inside, the boy slumped heavily in his chair. Complaining that the lecture dragged on forever, he just wanted to leave. Teaching was never his dream. Frankly, he had never even attended school before this. Still, the boring class gave him valuable info, especially regarding the cosmic history and the origin of these strange constellations. In his past life, he had never heard of them. Never. The concept of godlike sponsors simply did not exist. Constellations were wealthy humans who became deities to support modern hunters. Korea's prestigious Valhalla Academy was the third largest academy globally, packed with constellation relics, but Kim Ju-Hyuk found all this combat stuff utterly useless. He decided to head back to his dormitory and focus on martial arts since his body was weak. But suddenly his senses flared. That mysterious white-haired girl was quietly approaching him from behind. But wait, what did she want? Meanwhile, inside the quiet office, a colleague remarked that his old friend had been through a lot. Kim Leon admitted that, to be honest, it was far more embarrassing than painful, questioning whether that boy was actually just a normal high school student. Lee Sang-kyeol was absolutely shocked to learn the boy defeated 120 simulation monsters without ever facing a real one. This was factual. From what the senior instructor saw, Kim Ju-Hyuk seemed entirely average on the surface, but harbored a deep past. Kim Leon was deeply impressed to learn the kid was an orphan, raised in a highly dangerous zone, and Lee Sang-kyeol quickly confirmed he wasn't lying since he did his own private investigation. A fraud wouldn't boldly crash the Academy's grand opening ceremony anyway. Lee Sang-kyeol then asked if the boy wanted constellation room access. Kim Leon nodded. The senior instructor agreed to grant him entry to the first basement level, exactly as the director had ordered. Kim Leon was deeply grateful since he brought the boy here. He felt personally responsible for him, while the restricted fifth floor was completely off limits. A quick visit to the first was fine. Still, Kim Leon voiced some deep concerns about the upcoming academic year. Leaving his friend utterly confused, his instincts were telling him something. His words carried a heavy, ominous weight. Managing a class with 3 students from the legendary 5 families was a total nightmare. Dealing with just one was hard enough, and the senior instructor knew that very well. Instead of trying to comfort him, he mentioned a new exchange student from the Ventric family. The news shocked him completely. Rockdell Ventric was the real deal. He came straight from the main family line. Kim Leon knew this guy was bad news. Word was he got kicked out of the British Academy for stirring up major trouble. He sighed with relief, realizing his own troublesome class actually looked pretty good now. It was definitely better than dealing with that. Meanwhile, Kim Ju stared doubtfully at the girl. She just stared right back, completely silent. Finally, he decided to break the quiet. He asked what she wanted. Her request was simple: teach her those amazing sword skills. Kim Ju-Hyuk was not having it. He refused to give in. Honestly, he did not get her deal. Why was she so desperate to learn his style? He flat out refused her, which immediately made her question his reasons. His answer was brutally honest. He just did not feel like teaching her, period. With nothing left to discuss, he turned to leave, but she stared straight at him. She begged him to reconsider. He just repeated that he had zero interest in helping her. He went further, calling her deaf and warning her to stop shadowing his every move. Ju-Hyuk had no plans to train her. He simply turned around and walked. He left her standing there all by herself, looking completely crushed and abandoned. The following day, inside the massive halls of Valhalla, Ju sat quietly. He was lost in his own thoughts while resting in his classroom chair. Looking down at his hands, he realized this new body was surprisingly well trained. But there was a catch. He had no active magic, and controlling mana was impossible. He needed to find a specific artifact to fix this. For now, preparation was key. Suddenly, a voice broke his concentration. Talk about an uninvited guest. A flashy blonde bully strutted over. This was Rockel Ventric, looking for a fight. Backed by his assistant Yura de Felix, he marched straight to Ju-Hyuk's desk. Kim asked for his name. Rockel Ventrich found his ignorance highly offensive. He introduced himself quickly, saying he was not here to waste any time. Then came the pitch. He asked if Ju-Hyuk wanted to become truly powerful. He offered him a prestigious spot within the main branch of the Ventric family. Usually, branch families struggled hard to gain any real power or wealth. But the Ventrics were totally different, backed by a legendary guardian called the Beak Mask. This constellation guardian set them apart from every other clan. Normally, an S-class guardian protects a group by choosing one-star member. But the Ventric family handled things a bit differently than everyone else. They made a special pact with an outsider to avoid tricky contract issues. Thanks to this clever move, their syndicate gained massive power across Europe. Getting in meant you would instantly gain unbelievable influence and backing. This immense backing is exactly why Rockel Ventric acted so incredibly arrogant. Of course, his pride had recently landed him in some serious hot water. He got kicked out of the British Academy, but he was not sweating it. Standing outside with his assistant, he proudly declared that he always gets his way. Even a high-profile expulsion was nothing but a minor bump in the road. The powerful Ventric family would easily find a way to get him right back in. He had to stay on track. After all, that person would enjoy his failure. Back in the present, he tried to strike up a conversation with the star of the show, Ju-Hyuk. He thought he could bring the boy who dominated the entrance ceremony onto his side. So he offered to bring him into the prestigious Ventric family constellation. But the boy rejected him without a second thought, leaving him standing there completely frozen. He stood there completely clueless about what to do, while his assistant watched with a very bizarre expression. He became absolutely furious, but Ju-Hyuk was too smart to fall for it. Realizing the offer was fake, Kim declined, leaving Rockel Ventric to curse him as a total brat. Suddenly, a booming voice ordered everyone to return to their seats. The newcomer called out the annoying show-off, instantly pushing his furious temper past the boiling point. It did not help that this man addressed him by his full name. The combat veteran Lee Sang-Kaol demanded absolute order. He reminded them all that this place was no cozy academy. Knowing this man was a lethal combat instructor, the noble gritted his teeth in silent rage. He quietly retreated with his servant, vowing to deal with Ju down the line. Kim watched the whole display with his silent, piercing red eyes. When classes finally wrapped up for the day, Ju-Hyuk started reflecting on his morning. He had not learned a single useful thing about the Constellation Hall. Instead, his entire morning had been thoroughly wasted dealing with a completely useless, arrogant idiot. He turned over thoughts of the scouts and instructors desperate to recruit him. They wanted him despite his blunt, harsh criticism. Suddenly, a familiar presence crept up from behind. It was that unbelievably persistent girl, begging him to teach her fencing once again. He sighed in annoyance. Meanwhile, inside the prestigious top-tier Grand Valhalla dormitory, serious trouble was brewing. Up in the luxurious top-class hall, someone was absolutely losing their mind. Chandeliers shattered as uncontrollable rage exploded. It was Rockdale Ventric, absolutely losing his mind over his bruised ego. He could not stand that the orphan Kim Ju-Hyuk had completely humiliated him. He barked orders at Yura to summon Dara right away, needing someone to put this upstart down. Rockdale continued to simmer, his dangerous anger turning directly toward his quiet assistant. While she stood there perfectly still and silent, he violently grabbed her by the hair. He snarled, demanding a reply, asking if she forgot her place in the family. Did she honestly still believe herself to be the prestigious eldest daughter of the palace family? He threatened to cast her out completely, forcing the terrified girl to beg for mercy. Instead of showing mercy, he violently threw her down onto the cold floor. Once more, he demanded she summon Dara to eliminate his target. Next, she was to tell a second-year elite from the Rise family to come see him. Terrified and helpless, the blonde assistant quickly nodded. Meanwhile, over in Kim Jae-ak's room, he sat in quiet meditation. Brilliant blue magical energy swirled around his body as he focused deeply. Suddenly, he coughed violently, releasing a thick, suffocating wave of dark smoke from his lungs. He grimaced, realizing his broken body still could not channel standard mana. As he fell back into deep silence, he began remembering his walk home that afternoon. That persistent girl had popped up right behind him, out of nowhere. They had already reached his dormitory door, but she completely refused to stop following him. Like an absolute broken record, she just kept repeating her absurd demand. He was being incredibly irritating, basically begging for some action before proposing a deal. 10 million won per lesson, leaving the girl deeply saddened and utterly disappointed. Since she obviously could not afford that, he decided it was time to leave. Suddenly she asked for his phone, leaving him completely confused and totally unsure. He asked why she was doing that, only to see her typing in her phone number to make the transfer easier, leaving Kim Ju-Hyuk even more surprised. Then out of nowhere, a sudden notification popped up right on his phone. It was a transfer of 100 million won, so now he had to teach her his incredible and masterful techniques, but he claimed he would decline the payment immediately. He wanted to cancel the transaction. Honestly, can you blame him for his shock? How on earth did a regular high school student have 100 million won? Even if he did teach her, he would not have to reveal his deepest secrets. Still, that sheer mountain of cash was too massive to ignore. He could use it. So it did not matter. Even if his mana reserves were as pathetic as a beggar's, he still stood up ready for his mission and taking his first steps toward victory. His goal was to find the secret vault, at that moment deep in pitch darkness. He pushed through the dense wild vegetation. He thought about his prior research. Most vaults hidden 300 years ago had already been completely destroyed. Out of the 4 that might remain, only 3 were likely still intact. But one thing was absolutely certain: they were hidden somewhere in the Valhalla Mountains. He would search without ever giving up, so he began channeling his blue magic. He could locate the vault by sensing the marble that responded to his energy. It took barely any effort to detect. Suddenly, a bright glowing circle appeared. Kim Ju-Hyuk had finally found something. He slowly approached the glowing earth. He reached the neon blue ring and began digging hard with his iron shovel. Immediately, he realized once again just how incredibly weak his new body was. If he had known digging would be this hard, he would have buried it shallower. And if not for the Tower of Destruction 300 years ago, then there would be no need for this. Back then, the world stood on the brink of complete ruin, and no place was safe for his massive hoard of riches. So he built massive vaults, trusting his treasures would remain completely safe. As the morning sun began rising over the towering peaks of Valhalla, Kim Ju-Hyuk finally discovered exactly what he had been searching for all this time. His long-lost treasure vault. Finding the hidden lock was a real mystery, but He spotted it quickly, since a normal key would never fit. He carefully crafted a thread of pure magic, shaping it into a unique key that fit perfectly. He cheered as the massive vault door finally began to slide open. Gathering every bit of strength in his frail body, he finally managed to push. Step inside, landing right in front of a literal mountain of golden treasures. Smiling with absolute joy and pure excitement, he jokingly asked how his precious riches had been doing. He stared silently at the mountain of gold with a deeply thoughtful expression. With money no longer an issue, he could search for his other needs in peace, but suddenly something startled him. The legendary storage stones were resting right before his eyes. To maintain the vaults, he had imbued them with magic, and the day to use them was finally here. He finally arrived and picked up a magic stone, which immediately began to emit a bright blue light. This was classic for a storage stone with its overflowing magical power. He stopped drawing out the magic, deciding to first secure the rest of the stones. He planned to transport the lighter jewels first before moving the heavy gold bars. After that, it was just a beautiful day over at Valhalla Academy. Ju-Hyuk was slumped in his chair, sleeping like an absolute zombie once again. He felt like a total lunatic for thinking about building another vault in the future. His muscles were already aching from just a little training. Suddenly, the girl appeared. She stood there, begging him once again to teach her his unique swordsmanship. It was pretty clear she wasn't letting this go, and honestly, who could blame her? He tried to deduce why she was so intent on learning from him specifically. He bluntly asked Aren Choi why she was so incredibly persistent. She could learn from her family, but she claimed she had never seen a better swordsman. He asked about her father, pointing out his reputation as the Trojan family leader. Her father was probably a far superior master than he was anyway. Before she could answer, the instructor suddenly summoned Ju-Hyuk to the lounge. He was quite confused, but it actually involved his previous requests. Since he was dying to know the details, he stood up and left without a second thought. He walked right out of the room, leaving the poor girl standing there. She stood there in silence, looking a bit disappointed by his sudden exit. But then Ju-Hyuk paused for a second and threw her a lifeline. He told her to meet him at the local training field tomorrow at 6 a.m. She was left utterly speechless, unable to believe her sudden luck. The boy asked her if she was planning to pass on the opportunity. She quickly snapped out of it, promising she would absolutely show up. Meanwhile, in the nearby staff lounge, the instructor sat directly across from Ju-Hyuk. With class starting in a few minutes, he got straight to the point. First, Ju-Hyuk's access to the Constellation Hall was officially approved. He was cleared for the basement, but was strictly forbidden from going any deeper. He accepted the terms calmly, immediately asking when he could visit. Learning that he could go that very night, he confirmed he would do so. Kim Minon was highly surprised by this, expecting the boy to throw a massive tantrum. He fully expected him to make a scene over the restricted access. They split up, but we all know he is planning something big. The boy left the office immediately. Night had already fallen on the academy. This was the ultimate destination, the heavily guarded treasure of Valhalla Academy. Deep inside the Constellation Hall, the boy carefully observed his surroundings. Two formidable guards in black stood watch, keeping a very close eye on the area. As he watched, one of the guards spoke quietly into a radio. Ju-Hyuk noted how much tighter security was here compared to the gates. His guide replied that this just proved the immense importance of the facility. But the boy wasn't just analyzing the guards, he noticed the walls too. They were layered with defensive magic, completely sealing the structure except for the entrance. Ju-Hyuk turned to his professor, wanting some serious clarification. He directly asked how one could possibly get down to the second basement level. He asked if the basement was illegal. Kim Limon quickly answered. No crime, but he would definitely get expelled instantly from academy grounds. Worse yet, they would go insane first. This left him baffled. Totally confused, so Kim Lemon explained that dangerous second floor. Unrestricted constellation magic flowed constantly there. Anyone who touched it would have their mind completely shattered. The boy understood that instantly. Meanwhile, the instructor wondered why the boy asked about this place. Before even entering, it felt as if he truly wanted to go down there. But he dismissed it. The top entry candidate would never do that. Staying safely at the academy was obviously a much better choice anyway. Kim Lemon warned him, only 30 minutes left. The boy nodded. He promised to return soon. Suddenly, a glowing screen flashed open. It showed the exact same orders. He watched it very closely. Kim Ju-Hyuk did not care about expulsion. Valhalla was just a means to an end. He only came here to reach that third basement floor first. Why so many stairs? As he hurried down, they felt completely endless. Suddenly, he spotted something ahead of him. It looked like a massive prison. He knew the Constellation Hall should be on the first basement floor. Honestly, who wouldn't hesitate before venturing any deeper? Suddenly, the system screen popped up. Requirements met, it announced. He was being instantly transported to the hall, leaving him utterly confused. Where exactly was this magic taking him? In an instant, he began to fade away with the panel. A familiar figure greeted him in the new space. It was his infamous enemy. Brace, he stared at him in pure, horrified shock. Unbelievable. Brace mocked him. After 300 years, they finally reunited. Mid-sentence, a massive, heavy fist crashed directly into his arrogant face. Yes, Kim Ju-Hyuk delivering a devastating direct blow. He loved seeing that cursed, hated face. Brace begged him to calm down, but he only received another brutal punch. Brace tried to defuse the situation for a proper talk but was struck again. Kim Ju-Hyuk only wanted his absolute death. Every defense was useless. He was already down on the floor, weak and defenseless. As Kim Ju-Hyuk grew quite tired of fighting, he muttered that he normally never liked using his fists. But this was different. Brace had completely destroyed his entire future. He had stolen his wealth, his honor, and all those years he spent training his disciples. Brace then asked if Kim Ju-Hyuk was curious to know what this place was. Kim Ju-Hyuk admitted he was curious since there did not seem to be anything unusual around them. Brace explained this was just an imaginary world inside a relic, leaving Kim Ju-Hyuk thoroughly intrigued. What Kim Ju-Hyuk saw was actually just pure illusion, because his physical body had ceased to exist 300 years ago. He had always been trapped inside that relic. The boy was deeply shocked by this massive revelation. Brace smirked slightly at that very moment and declared that he had become a constellation, leaving Kim Ju-Hyuk speechless. Then, in absolute rage, he drives a brutal punch directly into Brace's face. Meanwhile, outside, instructor Kim Lemon has been waiting forever. He waited for ages. Suddenly, something appears. It is actually Kim Ju-Hyuk is being patted down by guards. Kim Lemon asks what happened. Absolutely nothing strange, Kim Ju-Hyuk claims. He only took a quick look around. No deep exploring. Why? Because he really likes keeping his head attached. The instructor orders him to go home. Kim Ju-Hyuk agrees and leaves immediately. But on his way back to the dorms, he remembers that crazy reunion. His worst enemy from the past. He does not care that Brace became some constellation. He just wants answers about that floating system panel. Brace claims he knows nothing, so he gets hit again. Another heavy punch. No mercy. Kim Ju-Hyuk is not playing games. Brace gasps out that he was trapped inside there for 300 years without power. Kim Ju-Hyuk cools down slightly, opening his hand to find Brace received that identical weird message. It is crazy. It says Brace must contact the reborn Kim Ju-Hyuk to restore his memories. This is getting pretty suspicious. Who is behind this? It makes him question why he even owns the Tower of Destruction, a complete mystery. He has no clue who this guy is. Even Brace admits he is totally clueless. his memory is still missing vital pieces. The locked memories will return slowly. He asks about Kim Ju-Hyuk's screen. Kim Ju-Hyuk explains the system told him to find a weapon. Find a weapon in memories, but the bottom part is completely censored out. Just weird symbols. He does not recall losing any memories anyway. Brace suggests things might just return slowly. After all, the weapon is already found. The rest should follow. It makes perfect sense. Kim Ju-Hyuk is still puzzled. What weapon? Brace explains this place was the ancient realm of the 4 legendary village sacred swords. And because Brace used one, he somehow ended up becoming a powerful constellation. Rage explodes again. Kim Ju-Hyuk curses him, but back in the present moment. Kim Ju-Hyuk reflects on how his simple village sword became a holy relic. It houses a constellation. He is totally lost, deeply confused. He wants to smash it all and leave, but there is one major issue. He grips that glowing blue magical sword in his hand. Brace was once called the King of Destruction, and this new mission. Using his sword, suddenly, a voice demands to see some ID. It is a pack of bullies, real show-offs, the arrogant leader. Is Lyric Sunrise, the eldest son of the elite Sunrise family. He says the seniors are away and demands an immediate introduction. Unbelievable, what kind of self-proclaimed senior bullies harmless freshmen? The thugs scoff at his quiet attitude, zero respect, absolutely no manners here. One of them wants to beat the boy up and gets the nod. He steps forward holding something. He starts talking about the difference between first and second years. Bad move. A massive kick lands directly in his chest. Kim Ju-Hyuk warns the rest to bring it. All that talking just to end up like this. The short-haired show-off groaned in pain. From that devastating kick, Kim Ju-Hyuk leaped into the air, aiming another precise strike, and unleashed a pretty brutal blow right into his talkative opponent's face. The guy flew far, utterly destroyed. He crashed down incredibly hard. Landing with a loud thud, he finally slammed hard into a wall. Unbelievable. To the blonde boy, this kid was completely reckless. His eyes widened in fear. He stared at the rookie in pure shock. The weaponless kid now held a sword. Kim Ju-Hyuk smiled at the grip. Perfect, it felt incredible, a feeling he had missed for so long. He challenged the thugs to bring it on. Now, let's rewind 3 hours. Rockdale Ventric gave the blonde boy a very simple order. Just deal with 1 weak, useless student, that was all. In return, the Sunrise family would receive a massive reward. Ventric handed over the identification, a target from the first year. Weapons did not matter. Any mess would be quietly swept away. Ventric asked him a simple question. Would he accept the job? The blonde boy nodded. He understood completely and accepted it. Leaving immediately, he slammed the heavy door shut behind him. The target's top rank meant nothing, still just a first-year rookie. A mere novice could never compete with a second year's power. The gap was inevitable, all thanks to contracts with the constellations. Valhalla students had to visit the constellation room in due time. There, first years signed contracts to officially advance to year 2. Once they became contractors, they could invoke the true power of the constellations. And in his mind, Kim Ju-Hyuk did not have any active guardian. He genuinely believed crushing this kid would be a breeze, easy work. But there was a major catch. Right now, things were different. Kim Ju-Hyuk was already moving, striking down yet another show-off. One thug cursed, holding a blood-red knife, but heard something coming. It was the rookie's sword, slicing him down without a second thought. Suddenly, Kim Ju-Hyuk sensed another cowardly attack headed his way. A thug tried to ambush him. The boy threw his sharp sword. The sharp blade missed the attacker, embedding itself directly into the dirt. Attacking him was a massive mistake, as Kim Ju-Hyuk was already right beside him. He mocked the thug relentlessly before executing a precise strike. The blow smashed directly into his ugly face, launching him backward. The other thugs watched, completely stunned by what they were seeing. Their friend flew through the air, landing headfirst with a brutal thud. The blonde boy was horrified. The rookie was systematically dismantling them. He was crushing second years one by one, barely breaking a sweat. Contractors should have far better skills, but these guys were pathetic. The blonde boy stared in disbelief at this unprecedented swordsmanship. It seemed like the rookie was barely using moderate strength. Yet everyone he hit could barely stand. It was absolute madness. Kim Ju-Hyuk faced the remaining thugs, promising to crush anyone who stepped up. The blonde boy thought everyone was just wasting time. He ordered his team to stay calm and not panic at all. He claimed the target was just a weak, useless rookie, but Kim Ju-Hyuk smirked. This cheeky remark made the blonde boy absolutely furious, and he charged forward with zero hesitation. But right in the middle of his dash, he felt something cold. It was Kim Ju-Hyuk's sharp sword striking his side as the rookie quietly mocked his slow reaction. He teased him for standing frozen before delivering another massive, well-aimed strike. The blunt force of that final blow sent shockwaves straight through his body. He desperately wondered how the rookie had managed to get so incredibly close. Then his vision went black. Kim Ju-Hyuk immediately started slapping his face. He delivered several sharp slaps to wake him up and demanded to know why they attacked him. They had picked a fight without any logical reason, the blonde boy groaned. He muttered that they were all senior veterans, but this felt wrong. Kim Ju-Hyuk immediately suspected someone else was pulling the strings behind this. The pale boy with earrings admitted they only wanted to humble the top-ranked rookie. Nothing more, Kim Ju-Hyuk openly mocked their pathetic sense of loyalty. As he turned to walk away, the arrogant ringleader desperately called him back. He warned the rookie that exposing this fight would lead to his expulsion. But Kim Ju-Hyuk shrugged it off, completely unfazed by their desperate threats. Instead, he pointed out how embarrassing this defeat would look for them. A group of second years trying to jump a freshman, total embarrassment. They got utterly trashed, and if word got out, they were finished. So the blonde kid needed to think very carefully about his future. With that final warning, Kim Ju-Hyuk walked away, leaving them broken. Meanwhile, as the clock struck 8:28, Rockdale Ventrick waited by his phone. Suddenly, Merrick Sunrise called him, sending a jolt of excitement through him. He eagerly demanded to know if the target had been beat. But Merrick simply dropped the contractor's name and delivered some unexpected news. He was officially pulling out of the deal and dropping everything. This sudden backdown left Rockdale Ventrick absolutely stunned by his words. Merrick strongly advised him to stay far away from Kim Ju-Hyuk. Rockdale desperately tried to figure out what could have gone wrong so quickly. Just hours ago, they were totally confident about easily crushing that cursed newcomer. He suggested reporting the assault to the Academy administration to get him expelled. Visible bruises on Merrick's face would be enough evidence to proceed. If the boy complied, he promised a massive reward and family sponsorship. But Merrick knew even a powerful family could not restore their lost honor. Their reputation was utterly shattered, and no amount of money could fix that. He abruptly hung up, leaving Rockdale Ventrick boiling with pure, unchecked rage. Screaming absolute curses, he shattered his phone against the floor in anger. His assistant stood silent as Rockdale loudly called for Yura. She confirmed his orders were done, but summoning Dare would take time. Dare was currently stationed far away, meaning they would have to wait. This delay only fueled his irritation, meanwhile far away in sunny Mexico. Right at Valhalla Academy, several beaten students lay groaning on the floor. With bodies sprawled on the ground, a brute checks his high-tech phone amidst the chaos. This fearsome guy is Dare Ventrick, and he just noticed a message from his brother. His brother wants him in Korea to deal with a guy named Kim Ju-Hyuk. The massive bounty is already waiting for him, and he is absolutely thrilled to hear it. He was totally broke. Getting kicked out left him with absolutely zero options. But now a major turnaround is handed right to him, the very next day. At 6 p.m. inside Valhalla's Grand Training Hall, Kim Ju-Hyuk stands impressed by the massive scale of this place. He is already hyped and ready to train tirelessly, with sheer determination, but then a voice suddenly questions his presence. He looks over and realizes it is Barge, the spirit from the sealed sword. Kim Ju-Hyuk is mostly shocked because he thought the kid had somehow escaped his confinement. He thought he would have to beat him up and throw him back inside, but that is not the case. Things are perfectly fine between them. Kim Ju-Hyuk plants his feet firmly on the ground, stretching his muscles while casually questioning this supposedly fearsome enemy. He asks about the artifact sword at Valhalla, and seriously, his casual attitude is hilarious. It is kept at Valhalla, but how did they escape the constellation room with it? Kim Ju-Hyuk was highly concerned that Brace had swapped the legendary weapon for a nearly identical replica. He asks how the spirit even learned to do that. The spirit replies that even after losing his powers, crafting such high-quality fakes is easy. Kim Ju-Hyuk quickly realizes that even Brace doesn't know why he holds these weird skills. Just then, the gray-haired girl arrives. While Kim Ju-Hyuk is still stretching, her sudden appearance catches him off guard. She immediately asks about her promised swordsmanship lessons, but the young man has no plans to teach her that just yet. Instead, they are starting with something basic. They need to build her stamina first, leaving the cute girl looking incredibly confused. Even so, she is highly determined and willing to do whatever is necessary. Kim Ju-Hyuk orders her to start stretching immediately, and she quickly obeys. Although this is incredibly basic, she absolutely needs to build up her physical stamina to absorb and control mana with absolute ease. It is a pretty strange training style, choosing physical endurance over magic. Choi Aren has plenty of mana, but her stamina has the stamina of an ordinary, non-magic student. Soon, she announces she is fully stretched. Kim Ju-Hyuk immediately declares that the real, agonizing training starts right now. Without wasting a second, they start pounding out endless push-ups. Next come intense squats, followed immediately by heavy upper body work. Grueling workouts, Koyan ends up completely exhausted, collapsing onto the hard ground. Physically broken and desperately gasping for air, but get this. She is shocked to learn this was only the beginning, just the warm-up. Kim Ju-Hyuk tells her to stop complaining and stand up immediately, because they still need to run 20 kilometers around the courtyard. Meanwhile, back in Valhalla's first-year Class A, Kim Ju-Hyuk considers the girl's extreme potential. He silently notes her body has a highly impressive growth potential. She sits right next to him, totally exhausted with massive dark circles under her eyes. She is completely worn out. Suddenly, the class instructor demands absolute silence from all the students as the Superior Academy supervisor steps forward. Their dimensional monsters instructor, Lilia, announced a simple written exam for today. Even though she explained it on day one, she expected everyone to study, ready to test their knowledge on dealing with monsters. The exam officially begins. It is time to face the questions. Everyone sits deep in thought, and even the skilled koan seems to be struggling. Meanwhile, Kim Ju-Hyuk stares at Lilia as if she is his most dreaded enemy. Suddenly, she stops. The instructor glances down at her advanced watch. She calls time and instructs the class on how to hand in their papers. This written exam will not affect their general individual ranking, but it will measure their skill levels for the upcoming class. With all papers submitted, she announces next week's lesson in the virtual combat room. They will be heading to the communication hall for their first real simulation. With a quick goodbye, she turns. Lilia makes a swift exit. Silence. Hearing this, Kim Ju-Hyuk remains lost in his own thoughts. Suddenly, Brace starts questioning him about his answers on the test. He is stunned to realize Brace has been watching him the entire time. Brace replies that he had nothing else to do, questioning how Kim Ju-Hyuk truly felt. He explains that, in truth, he can only perceive the boy's thoughts about him. Kim Ju-Hyuk shrugs it off, saying he simply wrote down what he already knew. His companion says he understands, while the scene shifts to the teacher's lounge. Over at the Valhalla staff room, Lilia is growing highly frustrated with Kim Ju-Hyuk. She's furious that he wrote such ridiculous, useless phrases as his exam answers. Walking nearby with a cup in hand, Kim Lingun suddenly hears strange, angry noises. He spots the teacher, who is absolutely fuming and venting her intense frustration. Approaching her, he asks if those are the papers from her class. She nods, explaining how she plans to prep for their next lesson. Even a basic test like this holds incredibly valuable information about her students. She mentions that Class A is full of prodigies from elite families. And almost everyone scored impressively, which leaves Kim Lingun quite surprised. He bids her farewell to head out, and she offers a quick reply. He keeps sipping the mysterious drink from his plain white cup as he walks. A sudden piercing scream echoes. He spills his entire drink in shock. At that moment, the teacher reacts in pure fury after looking at Kim Ju-Hyuk's test. Kim Lingun approaches her, asking if the young genius simply didn't try hard enough. He is completely shocked to see how the boy's answers mock the entire exam. Lilia declares this cannot be ignored and plans to expose his answers next week. She wants to prove that dealing with these monsters is no laughing matter. 1 week later, the students gather in the virtual combat simulation hall. Lilia announces that the written tests from the previous class have been graded. Almost everyone did well, but there is one major exception. She calls out for Kim Ju-Hyuk to step forward, and he immediately complies. Standing face to face, the instructor hands the boy his graded test paper. It's covered in red. The page holds nothing but harsh corrections. Kim Ju-Hyuk scored a flat 0, showing a complete lack of seriousness. He immediately objects, firmly defending that he put real effort into his work. She had a few questions. The first was about dealing with a stone goblin. Kim Ju-Hyuk had a simple answer: just strike it in the stomach. Next question: what if 8 wild goblins are charging straight at you? Kim Ju-Hyuk did not hesitate. He would send them all to hell. Starting with the closest, every single one of them would fall. The teacher could not believe his arrogance. He was actually being serious. He did not even try to hide his complete and obvious lack of effort. Using a regular sword was useless. It simply was not powerful enough. Lilia doubted Kim Ju-Hyuk completely, but he calmly argued back with her. He insisted on finishing the entire fight with one single strike. This nonsense irritated her, but she somehow understood his supreme confidence. Still, since Kim Ju-Hyuk was so confident, she gave him a chance. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed. A massive roar shook the area. The beast stood menacingly right in front of the young prodigy boy. Lilia offered a deal if he could kill the stone goblin his way. She would instantly change his test grade. Kim Ju-Hyuk calmly agreed. He calmly placed his test on the control table for the time being. He selected a basic sword, then he prepared to charge straight forward. He ran straight toward the stone goblin without any hesitation. The monster glared. Its grotesque expression was truly horrifying. The teacher knew his talent. He had already slain 120 goblins. But here was the catch. A normal sword alone would not be enough. But here is the crazy part. The beast suddenly screamed in agony. The boy's strikes were incredibly precise. Lilia watched in complete shock. The goblin groaned desperately as deep wounds opened across its body. Kim Ju-Hyuk prepared to finish the fight, channeling his raw inner energy. He threw his simple sword aside, completely discarding the useless training weapon. The battle ended easily. One quick strike to the stomach did it. The little girl was amazed. He killed it without using magic. He easily defeated a stone goblin with nothing but a basic training weapon. The blonde boy stood speechless. Even Choi Aren was completely stunned. Lilia let out a deep sigh, demanding to know how he did it. He simply explained that he struck the stone goblin in the stomach. This left her completely puzzled. the entire situation made no logical sense. Taking down a stone monster usually required an A-class contractor at least. Yet this boy did it with a normal, cheap weapon. He asked if his answer was correct, but Lilia shook her head. That was only one question, and there were many more challenges coming. The boy groaned. He realized he had to do it again. Suddenly, the ground began to split open, revealing a massive, dark chasm below. Ju-Hyuk stared into the endless tunnel, confused by what he saw. His teacher simply told him to stay focused and keep looking forward. Faint footsteps echoed as several monsters emerged from the deep, dark tunnel. Controlling enraged goblins was difficult. One wrong move could be fatal. Their scream would echo, instantly attracting an entire deadly horde. Clearing the area, normally, a mage would wipe them all out with one spell. Or they would just run away, even though the boy only spotted 3 goblins in front of him. 5 more would spawn with every single mistake he made. If he tried using his sword, it would be tough, especially since Lilia heard his swordsmanship was incredibly slow, but then he launched a sudden flurry of strikes, hitting the monster directly in the forehead, leaving the rest of them absolutely furious. The green goblin tried to stay on guard, but a clean hit smashed its ugly mouth, sending it crashing heavily to its knees. His teacher was deeply impressed by the display, while the boy bragged about getting the second question right as well. Later on, over at the Valhalla Training Center, Ju-Hyuk and Choi Aren were pushing their limits on the treadmill, running at a brutal pace. Those speed numbers were honestly insane. Soon, the gray-haired girl collapsed. She hits the floor completely wiped out, once again gasping desperately for air. Ju-Hyuk just stared down at her in total silence, showing almost playful, amused look. He asked if her clan ever trained her since she was struggling so much with a basic workout. She muttered that they didn't push themselves like this. He immediately fired back, asking how Choi Aren expected to fight against those terrifying high-level monsters. She replied that she would use her magic by drawing power from the constellations. Ju realized this was typical, because instead of building real stamina, they just focused on raw mana and relied entirely on their patron stars. By physical fitness, ignored, they get by as long as they keep training to channel that outside strength, but the overall risks were too risky. For starters, they could easily get trapped inside a dungeon or labyrinth that completely seals off magic. Plus, their mana reserves could be completely drained in long fights, not to mention those stars suddenly refused to help. After considering all of this, Ju called out to the young girl. He asked if she felt this conditioning was actually a waste of time. Choi Aren quickly nodded. Yes, because he promised to teach her proper swordplay if she finished. Denied, he was caught off guard by her direct reply, since that was exactly why he made her train in the first place. She looked pretty confused, but they laughed it off and ended the session, since they had to get to the academy. Why stay behind? Ju-Hyuk calmly told her. He wanted another workout set. Talk about dedication, right? He even asked if she wanted to tag along, before quickly taking back the offer. Goodbye, said Choi Aren. Quickly leaves, leaving Ju-Hyuk all alone. While lifting a massive weight, Brace suddenly popped up, asking if Choi Aren was her real name, and Ju-Hyuk confirmed it. The villain was shocked that she survived that brutal routine without a single complaint. Ju-Hyuk explained he only agreed to teach her some sword skills because she kept begging him. He then answered another of Brace's questions, stating he never actually told her the truth, though he had a feeling she already figured it out. They both found it fascinating that she sensed his sheer strength just by looking, prompting Ju-Hyuk to show her a few. While practicing his skills, the boy suddenly hears a noise. It is a muscular man, bench pressing some seriously massive weights. He is drenched in sweat, groaning heavily under the sheer effort. Then the muscular gym beast notices Ju-Hyuk standing right there. After a silent stare-down, Kim Ju-Hyuk asks how long he has been training. The lifter explains he has been training here since the class first started. He quickly wraps up and leaves, leaving Kim Ju-Hyuk to his thoughts. Kim Ju-Hyuk starts analyzing the martial skeletal structure of Ji-Hyuk Ho. Suddenly, Brace questions why the boy is so interested in that meathead. He explains that Ji-Hyuk Ho is bound to be much smarter than average magic users. Kim Ju-Hyuk then asks Brace what those cursed constellations actually do. To his surprise, Brace admits that he is not entirely sure of their goals. The boy openly mocks his captive enemy for being so completely useless. Brace defends himself, explaining he was sealed away for 300 years. He points out that Kim Ju-Hyuk can find answers in his system tab. Completing the newly unlocked system mission might finally shed light on the mystery. And get this, just as Kim Ju-Hyuk ponders this, his system panel suddenly flashes. It displays a warning about the center of the Great Forest. The legendary beast Madagascar resides right there, leaving Kim Ju-Hyuk deep in thought. He easily recognizes it as the final survival location from their first semester. He thinks to himself that without this cursed quest, he would leave. But now he has to retrieve his gear and play it safe. Stealth is key here, but let's be real, Brace is already ruining the silence. Kim Ju-Hyuk shuts him down by bringing up their previous brutal clash. He notes that if he had not acted fast, his head would have been crushed. Just like Brace's own skull was, he is locked here until the mission is finished. Only then will the secrets of his reincarnation finally be revealed. Meanwhile, far away in London, the story shifts to a massive estate. Inside the prestigious Ventrich mansion, old-fashioned luxury meets a dark aesthetic. Eerie paintings line the walls as we see a massive dining table. An enormous dining table comes into view with a powerful man and woman seated. The woman, Adelia Ventrich, vice head of the household, immediately demands answers. The subordinate reports that the nearby labyrinth has finally been cleared. Adelia offers her cold congratulations before asking for further updates. The man mentions he wants to recruit some competent fighters he met. Specifically, a highly competent survivor he encountered from a dangerous rogue clan. The vice head questions his choice, prompting him to explain their strength. He explains that the man is incredibly strong and the others are elite A-class contractors. Adelia agrees to grant them the Ventrich family blessing under one condition. He must thoroughly test their capabilities first, which the man quickly accepts. She asks if that is all for today, prompting another quick update. Suddenly, she learns of a shocking report regarding the infamous Rockdale Ventrich. The scout reveals that Desir Ventrich has been summoned to South Korea. Hearing this, Adelia boils with rage, her expression turning incredibly dark. Desir Ventrich is the absolute black sheep of the family, the worst of them all. Delinquent to exist, he had committed countless terrible crimes using his family's name, including murdering 5 people at the British Academy when he was 19. Simply over a minor argument, by age 20, the Ventrich family completely disowned him. Family, Adelia thought about how he had hidden for years and was now heading to meet Rockel. She acted fast, ordering close surveillance on him. Under Rockel's name, receiving a quick, firm nod of agreement, the guard was also told to warn the arrogant young master that if he got caught doing anything suspicious, he would be kicked out of the family immediately. The man bowed in agreement, handed over his completed report, and quickly excused himself. Leaving Adelia completely alone in the massive room, silence, she stood there, looking thoughtful as she pondered all those foolish, cursed people using unearned powers. Didn't earn, that ability was unreal, something far beyond normal, on her chair. The words "all for one" and "everything only for one person" were inscribed to her. Every single ability in the end belonged only to her. Deep in thought, she looked to a strange source for answers, the creepy painting of the Guardian constellation hanging on the wall. Back in the Valhalla classroom, the professor was explaining the origin of the word malefactor. In modern times, this noun is mostly used to describe villains who abuse the powers of their constellations. For evil operating either completely alone or in organized groups. Among these factions, the most infamous was the group called Ona God. Meanwhile, Kim Ju-Hyuk thought that while intense workouts made him feel stronger, he also possessed a natural talent for using mana. Not a genius, sure, but still far better than before. His reincarnation, still, a strange feeling lingered, making him question the exact reason why his body was in such terrible shape before, when he first tried to circulate. On day one, he could barely manage because his energy was below average, and his body was so weak that a tiny bit of physical work left him completely faint. It made no sense. Even a body this weak shouldn't have decayed to such a pathetic degree. Something terrible must have happened to him, but there was no point worrying about it today. Suddenly, a soft finger tapped on his desk. Looking up calmly, he saw the stunning Yu So-yan standing there. She dropped a crumpled note onto his table, leaving him quite surprised. Looking down at the paper, a giant greeting was written. He was completely baffled, and honestly, can we blame him? Short while later, Kim Lemon announced that students could actually leave the campus over the weekend, provided they submitted a formal request. The teacher ended his lecture right there. Meanwhile, Kim Ju-Hyuk started reflecting on heading outside for the weekend and quickly wrote down his official request for a Saturday pass, giving a pretty silly excuse. Brace was shocked by his sudden decision, asking if the request was real and where he was planning to go. Before he could even answer, a soft voice called out his name. A cute girl wearing her school tie approached him. The two chatted briefly about what occurred just hours ago. Kim Ju-Hyuk had actually replied politely to her note earlier, but she's never replied. He told her to speak quickly since he was busy trying to submit his application. The shy girl started stammering, struggling to find her words. She could barely finish a sentence without stopping herself. Kim Ju-Hyuk got pretty frustrated, telling her to just nod if she agrees. Suddenly, she becomes naturally, his insult leaves her completely fuming, and she immediately demands an explanation. He quickly fires back, saying that annoying people for no reason is just her thing. With that out of the way, he asks what she actually wants from him. Her mind drifts back to the moment she stood there watching Kim Ju-Hyuk fight. He was facing down a hideous stone goblin, putting on a seriously impressive show. What really blew her away was how the boy dominated using only a sword, completely magic-free. It was completely different from books. She just wanted to ask him his secret. She desperately wanted to know how he crushed that stone monster, but her immense pride stopped her. Gathering her courage with a heavy sigh, she finally prepares to speak, but then, total interruption. Their teacher suddenly cuts in, blurting out the exact same question the girl wanted to ask. This glasses-wearing, gray-haired woman is practically buzzing with excitement to learn his secrets. Kim Ju-Hyuk simply wonders where this crazy woman suddenly came from. He flat out asks why she is popping up like this when she clearly cannot stand him. That leaves her completely baffled, so he decides to rephrase his words instead. Does she dislike him just because he embarrassed her the other day? She quickly replies she doesn't care. She believed there was only one way to kill monsters. But this kid just shattered that belief completely, and now she needs answers right this second. She gets right to the point, asking if he wants to become her personal assistant. He immediately says no, explaining he has a departure form to turn in. The eccentric teacher tries everything to change his mind, but she has zero luck. They end up walking away together, leaving a certain young girl standing there completely forgotten. Left all by herself, she stands there sorting through the teacher's strange words. Honestly, it's pretty confusing. She takes a deep breath to steady her racing thoughts. Ultimately, she decides to just drop it. Who needs that kind of embarrassment anyway? By the next day, Kim Ju-Hyuk finds himself staring at something truly massive. A colossal marketplace stretches out. Later, we find him in the Valhalla dorms. Kim Ju-Hyuk is sitting at his computer when Grace asks what he is looking up. He is scrolling through his phone, looking for details on tomorrow's mysterious location. Ju-Hyuk is trying to track down a very specific place. He wants to sell off the valuable treasure he looted from the vault, and this looks perfect. If his sources are correct, he has definitely found the perfect spot. Right there on his screen is an exclusive virtual marketplace, hidden on his phone. Apparently, you only pay a small entry fee to trade basically anything you want. It is a pretty shady dark web setup, but incredibly efficient. The secret behind this bizarre market comes down to its legendary creator. A powerful guardian constellation known as the Secret Ruler runs the entire show. Because of this, high society elites use it without any fear. It is highly illegal, but world governments dare not interfere. Knowing this, Ju-Hyuk easily bypasses the security and secures his own entry. He plans to use it, quickly skimming through a few basic online tutorials first. While reading, he spots a hidden link tucked away in the comment section. Right then, a barrage of text messages pops up from young Choi Aren. She floods his inbox with crying bunny emojis to break some sudden news. She cannot make it to training tomorrow, but he replies he is busy anyway. Ju-Hyuk sends a casual laugh back, wrapping up their quick conversation. This leaves Choi Aren pretty confused about his message, so he quickly clarifies that he was only wishing her a safe trip while politely asking her to stop spamming emojis. Ju-Hyuk scratches his head over those virtual bunnies, but quickly shifts his focus to his real goal, securing a reservation. Find the location, he quickly taps a shady link on his phone screen. Time to go, he leaves his house. Dressed in dark clothes, wearing a long hoodie with the hood pulled up, the location was somewhere close by, likely an abandoned, rundown cafe in the area. The entrance was right in front of him at that exact moment. The wooden door looked incredibly old, and the interior was a total disaster. Ju-Hyuk pushes the entrance open to enter cautiously, knowing he just needs to make his way to the right corner. The suspected spot is almost within reach. He pushes a heavy gray door open and slowly steps into another room, immediately spotting a pretty jaw-dropping sight right in front of him. The legendary, sprawling Grand Black Market. Night was already settling over the area, with a bright moon gleaming in the dark sky. And honestly, it all feels super sketchy to Ju-Hyuk. It is his first time here. Yet everything feels strangely familiar. The purple sky along with the clouds and moon perfectly match the night he witnessed 300 years ago. Suddenly, a man approaches, cheerfully asking the young newcomer if this is his first visit there. The man wears dark clothes with long bangs falling over his face. Ju-Hyuk wonders if this guy is the employee from the online posts, since that leather jacket looks quite familiar. The guide nods, confirming it. He quickly explains the rules of this place, but our protagonist already understands the basic regulations. He hands over a thick stack of bills, earning a quick nod of thanks. Ju-Hyuk stares at the cash, calculating what he just spent versus what he stands to make here, but first, he has one crucial question for this guide in black. He needs to find a reliable spot to offload all the valuable jewels he brought. However, he isn't looking for a fancy auction. He just wants a quick, quiet cash deal quickly. The man in black suggests heading straight to the market in the 3rd district, since vendors there will buy anything. Ju-Hyuk hesitates, wondering who the most reliable contact around here is, and the guide replies that it is a dealer named Morris, famous for giving the absolute best prices. The man kindly points him toward the 3rd district, leaving our young traveler quite grateful. But before he goes, the guide offers one last critical piece of advice. He highly recommends that Ju-Hyuk wear a mask around here. He explains that because of the highly illegal goods being traded, almost everyone covers their face. The guide even hands over a free mask as a welcoming gift to Ju-Hyuk, who accepts it with sincere gratitude. The man in black bids him a safe journey and tells him to enjoy his business in the 3rd district of this market. There, a mysterious dealer in a white mask is busy examining a brilliant diamond. Kim Ju-Hyuk approaches him cautiously to confirm his target identity. Sure enough, this masked man is indeed Morris, the legendary merchant. Our protagonist quickly tells him that he has got some premium loot to offload. Morris notes that everything depends on the quality, though basic gold and precious gems are easily appraised. Kim Ju-Hyuk promptly starts pulling items out of his massive backpack, revealing a heavy black bag from inside. Out of his massive backpack, a heavy-looking black bag suddenly slid out. He flatly stated that he wanted to sell the contents of that bag to Morris. Curious about what lay inside, he immediately examined the ring. Suddenly, he froze. He was completely shocked by what he saw. That simple-looking ring was a rare relic from the era of destruction. An incredibly rare, ancient, and highly precious treasure. No matter the angle, it was flawless. Morris wondered if the other items matched. And they did. A whole pile of them shone brightly inside that small bag. The masked appraiser quickly realized every single piece came from that same lost era. Suddenly, a sharp voice snapped him out of his daze. It was Kim Ju-Hyuk. The young man asked how much he would offer for the entire haul. Morris was completely stumped. How did a kid acquire such legendary treasures? So he cautiously asked Kim Ju-Hyuk where he got these ancient things. But the boy coldly replied that such questions shouldn't be asked here. Realizing his boundary slip, Morris, who pridefully kept a fair business, quickly apologized. He deeply regretted risking his solid reputation as an honest negotiator. He sighed and confessed that he honestly had no idea what to offer. He simply couldn't buy these items since they were high-grade artifacts. They came from the era of destruction, and his pockets weren't deep enough. Kim Ju-Hyuk frowned, looking at his haul, and asked where to get a fair price. Morris pointed him toward the massive auction house down the main street. The young man then asked how long the bidding process would take. Morris replied it would take 2 to 3 weeks due to high demand. The endless waitlist made it slow, and the kid kept questioning him. Kim Ju-Hyuk realized he would have to return here in person later. Tedious procedures. He absolutely hated dealing with this kind of stuff. Instead, he asked for a rough estimate of what they'd fetch. This made Morris pause in deep thought before tapping on his phone screen. He turned it to reveal an estimate that left Kim Ju-Hyuk speechless. The boy stared at the endless row of zeros, realizing their insane value. He grinned, glad he kept them, and asked how much Morris could pay right now. The merchant admitted he could only scrape together a fraction of that sum. Specifically, 3/4 of the total, even if he sold his entire shop. Kim Ju-Hyuk blinked, asking if he was serious before making a choice. He agreed to take the deal immediately, utterly shocking the masked merchant. Morris was completely stunned. These relics held immense secret value. Their worth went far beyond age. There was a much bigger reason. The powerful cosmic constellations, which rose after the destruction, loved these items. They responded perfectly, cosmic resonance from a forgotten era. Morris knew even a weakling could secure a godlike contract using them. With these catalysts, the active alchemist zone became a goldmine of potential. Holding the glowing, magical ring between his fingers, he marveled at its aura. The mana flowed flawlessly through the metal, confirming its absolute authenticity. The lingering magic from the final days of that era was still active. He was ecstatic. He just secured 8 legendary relics for a steal. Grinning behind his mask, Morris tightly gripped the small bag of ancient treasures. He celebrates as he packs away the pile of valuable jewels brought to him. Thinking it is his lucky day, he suddenly senses someone approaching him. His eyes widen in absolute terror as a mysterious stranger, clad entirely in black, steps forward. The mysterious stranger wears an incredibly frightening black mask. Meanwhile, in a completely different location, Kim Ju-Hyuk uses his strength to open a massive door. He quickly removes the incredibly uncomfortable mask from his face. The thing was so incredibly uncomfortable that he felt like he would actually die wearing it. Looking around, this strange place looks exactly like his old starting cafe. He quickly pulls out his cell phone to carefully check the transaction history on his account. His money troubles are officially solved thanks to those 8 rings. The safe is packed, and Kim Ju-Hyuk is absolutely thrilled that he still has plenty stored. He will not face any financial problems anymore until a weird notification pops up. A highly suspicious new notification suddenly pops up, revealing a call from a completely unknown number. He answers quickly without hesitation, hearing a woman's voice on the line. She immediately invites him to have a meal, leaving him pretty surprised. When he asks how she got his number, she quickly claims she is a Valhalla teacher. She rapidly rattles off the exact restaurant location for their meeting. She hangs up before the boy even gets a chance to ask anything. Since he has absolutely nothing better to do, he decides to visit the specified restaurant location. After all, if some silly girl wants to buy him a free meal, why decline? Honestly, he is more than happy to let that silly girl spend her cash on him. Meanwhile, the scene cuts back to the mysterious man in the black mask. Morris demands to know why he is here, questioning if their business relationship is really that bad. Morris fires back that a normal merchant cannot simply speak with the boss, especially since they have only met a couple of times before this. The black cat amusedly admits he deeply admires the merchant for speaking to him so bluntly. Morris sighs, demanding to know why on earth the black cat is showing up again. He claims his visit is nothing significant, simply that Morris entering the auction seems rather strange. He claims it is nothing major, simply that Morris joining is strange. Morris quickly snaps back that their supposedly anonymous registration system is clearly a flawed joke. So much for keeping client details completely private, huh? The black cat calmly explains that since the real market owner is actually a constellation, he can easily access any hidden data he wants. He immediately demands to see the items registered for the auction. Morris reluctantly agrees, even though he finds the black cat's sudden intense interest incredibly suspicious. He tosses the heavy black bag containing the special items onto the table. Inside the bag are several incredibly rare relics dating back to the era of destruction. This incredible sight leaves the little black cat completely speechless, lost in deep contemplation. He quietly murmurs about their immense value, leaving Morris totally confused. Out of nowhere, a system panel pops up with an urgent message. It reveals that the watching constellation is frozen in absolute shock. The alert keeps spamming his device over and over again. The black cat realizes his constellation desperately wants that ring. Meanwhile, over at the Valhalla restaurant, a fork spins some pasta. The delicious meal is slowly brought up toward the waiting teacher's mouth. She slowly savors the meal, praising how delicious it tastes, but then something hits her. Confused, she looks up and asks why Kim Ju-Hyuk isn't eating. He replies that he's just surprised Valhalla actually has a spot like this. She explains that aside from the student cafeteria and staff restaurant, normal spots like this exist, though Kim Ju-Hyuk couldn't care less. He asks straight up why she called him here, leaving her temporarily speechless. After a pause, she quickly offers him an assistant position, but he instantly rejects the offer. The teacher begs him not to decline so quickly. He'd get huge perks as an intern, so she pleads with him to listen. Knowing she was planning this all along, Kim Ju-Hyuk shows a tiny hint of interest and asks what those perks are. The teacher explains that he would receive financial aid and a scholarship, but he remains completely unimpressed. He'd also get to co-author a research paper about monster attacks with her, focusing on the 3 types of monster attacks, which could get his name published by the World Association of Monster Research, bringing him massive fame. But he still doesn't care. Undeterred, the teacher keeps trying to convince him, even promising extra days off, but Kim Ju-Hyuk remains completely unmoved. Unimpressed, honestly, watching her try to scheme her next move is gold. She plays to his massive ego but fails miserably, Frustrated, she shifts tactics to force the issue, demanding he become her assistant, but Ju-Hyuk refuses yet again, knowing her offers aren't nearly enticing enough to accept. His main goal right now is simply reaching the center of the great forest. And even with her as his mentor, passing the performance evaluation won't be easy. Would be highly difficult, absolutely not happening. And delivers a verbal checkmate, firmly stating that he has no interest in assisting or writing papers, leaving her completely devastated. Desperate, the teacher quickly proposes an exchange of information instead. She'll share juicy news with Ju-Hyuk if he reveals his monster secrets. Intrigued, he listens as she reveals the scoop is about Choi Aren, but Ju-Hyuk instantly loses interest, saying he doesn't care. He figured he was just helping her, but then she drops a major bombshell. She might get disowned by her own family, which leaves him temporarily stunned. Promptly trying to make his exit, he leaves his teacher in a panic, explaining that his meal is over, her offer isn't worth his time. So he's taking off. This makes her furious since she expected some info. Careless about her feelings, he notes that he already knows everything. But before leaving, Ju-Hyuk asks permission to clear up a quick curiosity. Why is she so strict in class when she's actually incredibly childish? She explains that when teaching about dangerous, mysterious monsters, major issues will arise if students treat them as a complete joke. It directly impacts survival rates, and since students can be pretty foolish, she must stay strict. Ju-Hyuk thinks it's just a simple philosophy. But to her, it's the sacred duty of a true educator. He just arrogantly scoffs at her ideals, finding it all incredibly amusing. As he turns to walk away, the teacher desperately calls out to him, still demanding his secrets. It does not quite work out, bringing this awkward and tense moment to an end. Meanwhile, at the Choijin family temple in Sejong, a stern man sits at a table in front of two youngsters. This is Choi Junseok, the clan leader who has summoned them to question their resolve ahead of the upcoming qualification test. Wanting to protect their family name, the first youth here is from the True History faction, a combat leader and the eldest son of the Choijin family named Choi Jin-hyun. Beside him stands another member of the bloodline, the young Choi Aren. The patriarch begins explaining that if they pass this evaluation, they will earn the chance to sign a contract through Chinwoo, their legendary sacred relic that proves who the true successor is in the family. However, a massive punishment awaits if they fail. They will be completely stripped of their name and expelled. Choi Junseok then asks if they are truly ready to take this risk. The boy nods. Without hesitation, Choi Aren also speaks up with equal confidence and resolve. After her, earning them a long, silent stare from the deep in thought. Leader Choi Junseok then decides to lay out the critical details. He explains the test is in exactly 3 weeks and dismisses them from the room. They bow and begin walking slowly down the long corridor toward the exit. Suddenly, Jin-hyun smugly asks her if she can read the stars yet. Aren looks quite confused, not fully catching the hidden sting in his question. He asks if she noticed their father's cold expression when she confirmed her. Honestly, she takes those words to heart, silently reflecting on them. Her brother laughs, noting she is desperately eager to become the next clan head just to prove she is actually a legitimate daughter. Hearing this cruel insult, the girl gets quite angry, but he keeps pushing her. He mocks her glare, openly doubting her ability to pass the trial. Jin-hyun keeps sneering, reminding her she still lacks a basic constellation blessing, meaning she is absolutely no match for his contract. It is deeply painful to hear such cruel words coming from her sibling. The bully twists the knife further, telling her she should just quit and continue leeching off family money, warning that it will cost her. Telling her he will see her in 3 weeks, he turns and struts away. Talk about a heartbreaking moment, leaving the poor girl all alone as memories flood back. She recalls a vital figure from her childhood, telling Aren to become the next clan leader so she can finally have her own freedom. Snapping back to reality, her eyes flare with an unyielding determination. She is fully ready to take on whatever difficult trials lie directly ahead. Meanwhile, over in classroom 1A, the students are paying close attention. Well, everyone except Kim Ju-Hyuk, who is totally lost in his own thoughts. He is quite amused that Barch is actually stressing over the schools. Midterm exam dates. Our hero admits he rarely pays attention, meaning he has no real interest in whatever the instructor is teaching. The gray-haired instructor warns them that they must understand the absolute weight of Valhalla's midterms, because in these crucial evaluations, the students who end up with the worst scores will be immediately. During exams, the students with the absolute lowest grades got kicked out. Expelled. Because of this, they needed to coordinate their efforts perfectly. The teacher also urged them to prepare thoroughly for both upcoming exams. Failing was not an option. Kim Ju-Hyuk, however, was mostly worried about the written test. He was already a total beast in physical combat. Still, he needed to stick around this academy to reach the deep forest. He had no clue how to get there, so he made a quick move. He called Bart, who picked up immediately, and asked a simple question. Had Bart attended those classes? The answer was yes. Kim Ju-Hyuk instantly decided that Bart would just take the written test in his place. This left Bart completely baffled by the bold request, which honestly feels pretty unfair, but our protagonist does not seem to care. He simply countered, saying that things would work out like this anyway. So Bart should just stop complaining and handle it on his own. Meanwhile, the professor wrapped up the class, wishing the students a great day. They all thanked him. Immediately, Kim Ju-Hyuk stood up. He grabbed his pack to head out, but a voice suddenly stopped him. Turning around, he asked the little girl what she wanted. She timidly asked if they were going to train today. Kim Ju-Hyuk nodded, asking why she wanted to know. Choi Aren explained that she did not want to slack off. Puzzled, Kim Ju-Hyuk asked a question. Did she want to learn real swordsmanship? It was certainly the right time. Besides, she probably did not even know how to hold a basic blade. He clarified it was not about fancy martial arts, just simple weapon handling. It was definitely long overdue for her to practice with her own weapon. So he instructed her to meet him over at the training hall. She happily agreed, eager to begin her very first lesson. Inside the spacious school training center, Kim Ju-Hyuk turned to Choi Aren, asking how long it had actually been since she last touched her sword. She admitted it had been about 36 hours, focusing purely on strength workouts. Her mentor realized that before this, she had practiced every single day. He asked to see her blade. Moving quickly, she gripped her hilt firmly, drawing the sword with absolute focus. Kim Ju-Hyuk instantly began showing her advanced, proper techniques for holding the weapon, though she struggled slightly with the positioning of her ring and pinky fingers. But the moment she finally aligned her hands and wrists correctly, and honestly, the immediate shift in her aura is absolutely wild. Something magical happened. The mana from her sword began manifesting beautifully. Choi Aren had not even channeled her energy, yet the hilt felt secure and rock steady in both hands. Seeing this, Kim Ju-Hyuk told her to strike him with everything she had, and she agreed instantly. With a swift motion, he drew his own sword, brandishing it defensively against his eager young student. She called out a warning and sprinted directly toward her instructor, launching her first strike. As she lunged, she noticed a strange, sudden speed in her steps. Kim Ju-Hyuk effortlessly deflected her strike, casually noting that the young girl Choi Aren had gotten a lot faster, but there was a catch, and Kim Ju-Hyuk quickly warned her. He warned her not to waste unnecessary magic on her feet, and she quickly agreed. Fully focused, she raised her beautiful sword again, ready to restart her assault. She firmly planted her feet on the ground, channeling all her focus into the blade. Suddenly, she bolted toward her teacher, unleashing a fast and well-planned attack. Kim Ju-Hyuk immediately noted that her charge had been incredibly good, but there was a catch at the end. She needed to rotate her hips a bit more. Choi Aren nodded, fully understanding his advice on improving her strikes. Kim Ju-Hyuk then told her to attack him with everything she had. She eagerly agreed and immediately put her combat plans into action. She lunged forward, aiming a flurry of rapid strikes directly at Kim Ju-Hyuk's chest. Her strikes were blindingly fast, leaving bright trails of light cutting through the air. Kim Ju-Hyuk effortlessly dodged every single blow, keeping his balance perfectly as her blade struck nothing but the floor. The two shared a brief, tense look. Choi Aren felt things were going exactly as planned as she stood her ground, fiercely attacking her mentor with absolutely no intention of backing down. She had grown incredibly strong thanks to Kim Ju-Hyuk's top-tier, intense coaching. As he countered her wild onslaught with an incredibly calm and relaxed posture, the fight escalated until their blades clashed in a sudden, powerful deadlock, ending as the sun began to set over the grand campus of Valhalla Academy. Inside the private training hall, the two spent hours pushing their absolute limits. Choi Aren and Kim Ju-Hyuk continued their relentless practice, though she was clearly hitting her limit and gasping for air. Finally, Kim Ju-Hyuk declared that an hour had passed and called it a day, which she happily accepted. Exhausted, Choi Aren slumped straight onto the floor, trying to catch her breath. After that intense workout, she looked up and watched her instructor sheath his sword, marveling at how his blade work seemed sharper and more refined than ever. It was completely incomparable to what he displayed back at the entrance ceremony. Yet a hard truth remained. She still could not touch Kim Ju-Hyuk in combat, despite practically begging him to teach her his legendary, supreme sword techniques. Gathering her thoughts, she called out to Kim Ju-Hyuk, eagerly asking him if they could spar again whenever he was free, catching him slightly off guard. He found her relentless drive surprising, but sparring with her was actually highly beneficial. Not only was Choi Aren incredibly talented, but teaching her was genuinely quite fun. He could tell she possessed a natural talent for swordplay, which stood out even when she was completely exhausted during their first match. Honestly, helping her refine those moves was also helping him regain his old form. If they had met 300 years ago, she would have easily been his disciple. Choi Aren looked up and asked him once more if they could spar one more time. Kim Ju-Hyuk paused for a moment, deciding to tease her. By claiming he had absolutely no interest, Choi Aren simply agreed, leaving her trainer a bit disappointed that she gave up so easily. She quietly explained that it was because he was completely right, believing that if she followed Kim Ju-Hyuk's instructions to the letter, she would definitely become much stronger. Feeling slightly disappointed by her blind trust, he shrugged and replied that training was finally over for the day, and Choi Aren mentioned that she would see him next time, and he simply gave a nod to wrap things up. Next, the scene shifts directly to the massive Grand Valhalla Stadium for Hyun's very first visit since the grand opening ceremony. Meanwhile, Hyuk noted the massive crowd of first-year students, which was way more than he ever expected. Choi Aren just watched everything in total silence, without saying a word. Nothing. Kim Ju-Hyuk wondered why on earth everyone was gathering in this spot. Grace pointed out that their instructor actually mentioned this 2 weeks ago, which left him pretty confused since it felt like ancient history. Suddenly, the head instructor demanded absolute silence to announce the details for Valhalla's midterm exams, a dungeon raid. That was their first challenge. Everyone would form teams to enter an artificial dungeon currently being built right before their eyes. As the crowd watched, the senior instructor made a loud announcement, stating they were completely free to form parties of up to 8 members. Their grades would depend entirely on their individual contribution during the raid. But there was also one major catch that could easily ruin everything. Elimination. If the clock runs out, they fail immediately. The senior instructor also confirmed that this dungeon was rated F+, With that, he yelled for the practical exam to begin right now. The clock started. Desperation quickly spread like wildfire among the students as they scrambled to form their teams in a hurry. The instructors watched the eager chaos unfold, but a massive twist was coming. Take Yoyan, who openly complained that her team's damage dealer was lacking, searching for a replacement despite the guy insisting he could handle the job. She figured she did not need to recruit anyone stronger than herself anyway. 5 hours was plenty of time for 8 people in such a low-level dungeon, especially since individual contribution was the main goal for a 6-member team. She swiftly ordered her squad to move out, fully focused on standing out from the rest. Meanwhile, the senior instructor watched closely, noting that a 5th-generation kid easily understood the true objective of the exam, unlike the rest of the clueless crowd who had absolutely no idea. Normally, they would tackle dungeons with 20 people or maybe 8-member squads. But without perfect balance, internal friction would ruin their coordination entirely. Realizing this, the senior instructor turned to the teacher, saying that the students would enter the dungeon in exactly 30 minutes. They needed to prepare for evaluation, which the teacher quickly confirmed. Meanwhile, Kim Ju-Hyuk stood frozen in the chaos, wondering if those who already entered were already being graded. Honestly, he was pretty lost about everything going on around him. Suddenly, he noticed Choi Aren standing alone. Looking incredibly quiet and shy, Kim Ju-Hyuk realized she had not joined a group yet. He walked over, asking what she planned to do. Since almost everyone else was already prepped and inside the dungeon, Cha quickly replied that she would simply do whatever Kim Ju-Hyuk wanted, which left him pretty stunned. He wondered how he should handle this girl, especially since she seemed determined to follow his every command like absolute law. Ever since their last training session, Kim Ju-Hyuk planned to enter completely alone. She responds that she will also go without a companion, but he does not care. Everything seems quite easy to him, so he just leaves. He leaves, she stays completely silent and unresponsive after all that. Honestly, who leaves a teammate alone like that? Some boys quickly notice Choi Aren to approach her, trying to start a quick chat. He tries to convince her to join his group with a sweet, friendly invitation, but she politely declines and says she will enter alone, rejecting him entirely. The boy tries to stop her, warning she will easily get eliminated, but Choi Aren calmly responds that she will manage since Kim Ju-Hyuk said it was pretty easy. This leaves him feeling completely exasperated. Her ears are totally closed to his well-meaning warnings as she steps into the dungeon alone. Meanwhile, over at the massive Valhalla Stadium, they entered. Every single squad is now inside their assigned dungeon. Up in the observation room, the instructors closely monitor their every move. The professor watches attentively, silent and completely focused. Suddenly, a savage beast appears in one of the zones. Soon, Bunyeong Yun grabs 2 precious points, while Bai scores 1 point more than him. Meanwhile, Bun Jin-soo manages to secure just a single point. The senior instructor observes. He watches. The professor looks on with a very serious expression. Things are going quite well despite the incredibly strict scoring system, which highlights the extreme rigor of the Academy's fast-paced training. They evaluate everyone with flawless speed. Back when Lee Sang-chul was active, he was known as the Clear Master, a legend boasting a 99% success rate. The professor knows he understands dungeon raiding dynamics better than anyone else, earning him absolute respect in this room. Meanwhile, he keeps a sharp eye on the active battlefield, noting that this year's crop of students is exceptionally promising. The 5th-generation rookies are putting on quite a show, especially one truly standout talent, the completely fearless Yun So-yan. Right now she is barking out precise orders to coordinate her team. They are locked in. Chaos erupts. They engage in a fierce clash with aggressive monsters. Yuno Yan quickly warns her squad that the front line cannot fall under any circumstances, immediately commanding her archers to let loose. The giant beast groans in agony under the heavy barrage of arrows, while Yan delivers a flurry of incredibly precise, powerful strikes. Putting the creature down for good, it quickly dissolves as a holographic simulation. Seeing this, Liang Cha is genuinely impressed by her flawless execution. It plays out like a textbook raid. Yan perfectly assigns roles to maximize their point gains, building in rock-solid defensive midline. If she maintains this stellar performance in the upcoming bi-monthly exams, she will definitely reclaim her spot at the very top of the rankings. After all, if Kim Ju-Hyuk had not completely ruined her entrance ceremony, her perfect record would still be intact. Lee Sang-cha decides to check on. Now watch when he checks on our main character, a massive error flashes. No data, the system cannot find him, leaving the instructor stunned. The instructor was completely confused since the search machine usually retrieved every student's records. He grew incredibly tense and worried about what might be happening inside. To find answers, he quickly pulled up the completed artificial dungeon exam logs. There he saw that a student named Kim Ju-Hyuk had actually finished the exam in just 23 minutes and 32 seconds, taking first place. This record stunned instructor Lee Sang-chul because the young boy had cleared the entire stage completely solo without any team helping him. What felt truly unbelievable was that impossible run of 23 minutes and 32 seconds. Even so, the senior instructor remained highly skeptical and demanded to review the video footage, deeply doubting the skill of a 17-year-old student. The playback loaded onto the main screen, revealing Kim Ju-Hyuk just standing there calmly holding his blade, looking totally unbothered by the threat. Right before him stood a massive horde of vicious beasts, ready to tear him apart, but the young warrior simply stretched his arms. He casually ignored their roars and suddenly dashed straight toward those hideous monsters who glared right back at him with burning rage. They growled fiercely to scare him off, but Kim Ju-Hyuk remained unfazed, completely focused on cutting down every target in his way. Without hesitating for even a second, he unleashed a series of devastating surgical strikes that instantly sent the survivors into a wild fury. He sliced through the aggressive goblins like a hot knife through butter. Next up, he found himself facing down two massive, bloodthirsty opponents. They howled to break his spirit, but Kim Ju-Hyuk barely blinked. He lunged forward instantly, aiming a perfect dual slash that cleanly obliterated the giant orcs. With that, his exam objectives were cleared. The sheer speed of his run left the instructors speechless. But wait, one final massive boss still stood waiting on the field. He faced the giant golem without saying a single word, Lee Sang-chul. Watching this unfold, knew that beast was meant for an 8-man team. The creature was incredibly huge, powerful, and showed absolutely zero weaknesses. Yet Kim Ju-Hyuk looked highly thrilled to fight it. He immediately lunged and drove a devastatingly sharp strike deep into its chest. The elite golem shattered instantly under his sheer force and dissolved back into digital dust. Witnessing this incredible display, Lee Sang-chul stood utterly amazed. He instantly knew who deserved the top spot in this practical exam. Without a doubt, Kim Ju-Hyuk had claimed absolute victory. Outside, other student groups were finally emerging, completely exhausted and battered. Meanwhile, another squad walked out laughing and cheering, celebrating their successful clear. However, a girl named Yoya looked incredibly frustrated and annoyed. The blonde student beside her also scowled, while Choi Aren just watched them in silence. Kim Ju-Hyuk quietly stood nearby as the chaotic midterm exam wrapped up. Shortly after, the scene changes to a quiet faculty lounge. Inside, an instructor was carefully examining the final student rankings. The moment he scrolled through the scores, his jaw literally dropped in sheer shock. He stared at the screen, unable to comprehend the incredible data before his eyes. The official results are finally out, and Lee Sang-chul gets the call. An assistant explains the massive shocker. Kim Ju-Hyuk snatched first place. This news hits them like a complete truck, leaving the veteran teachers absolutely speechless. Lee Sang-chul expected him to do well, but not like this. Completing a dungeon alone and completely unscathed, absolutely legendary. If he keeps growing, South Korea might reclaim its spot as #1. He realizes this kid could soon contend for the strongest in the world. The senior instructor can barely hide his deep amazement at this news. He admits it has been years since they had this many geniuses. But the veteran teacher warns that an even bigger surprise is lurking in this exam. It comes from the quiet but incredibly talented girl, Choi Aren. Nobody ever expected her to completely outperform their star student, Ju-Hyuk. The instructors are baffled as to why Choi Aren went in completely solo. She tackled the dungeon alone, matching the main character step for step. She rushed through the dungeon in record time, despite taking some heavy hits. He knew she was quiet, but this is a whole new level. He never expected this reserved girl to carry out such a brutal challenge. If this test focused only on teamwork, Ju-Hyuk would easily win. But the solo efforts of our top two completely flipped the board. Kim Ju-Hyuk and Choi Aren walked away with far superior scores. Still, he would never advise other trainees to attempt this path. Both agree on one thing: this is not for ordinary students. Lee Sang-chul simply cannot shake his growing curiosity about Choi Aren. He remembers her back in his guild days, when her aura was extremely weak. Her sudden transformation and solo run remain a complete mystery to him. He wonders if Kim Ju-Hyuk is behind this, though it sounds absolutely wild. Shaking his head, he puts the theories aside and focuses on grading. The next morning, anxious students crowd around the bulletin board for their grades. The first-year ranking is fully displayed for everyone to see. And sitting right at the very top of the board is Kim Ju-Hyuk. Watching from the side, Rockdell Ventrich is absolutely fuming with raw rage. He demands to know if Desira is in South Korea, and Julia nods. He orders her to call him instantly. They are moving out right now. Meanwhile, night falls over the busy and bright neon-lit streets of Seoul. The arrogant Rockdell Ventrich arrives at a high-end restaurant. With Julia trailing behind, they are instantly met with a rude greeting. It is none other than Desira Ventrich, looking as sloppy as ever. Rockdell sits down, clearly annoyed to face his brute of a partner. Desira absolutely stuffs his face like an animal, showing zero class. Rockdell watches with nothing but cold disgust and pure contempt. Wiping his greasy mouth, Desira brings up their ultimate target, Kim Ju-Hyuk. Rockdell scoffs. The kid is just a cocky fool begging for trouble. He has embarrassed the high-ranking elites, and he needs to pay. Desira asks with a smirk if he should just kill him immediately. But Rockdell quietly warns that the final decision belongs to their master. Rested entirely in his hands, the brute then said he needed to prepare the council, properly leaving the preppy man quite confused by the statement. He immediately pointed his finger right at someone. He was pointing at Julia de Palace because, thanks to her, a massive conflict had started with that family. Desira was not sure if it was because of the group size. But he already killed several because rumors had spread so far, but people in Valhalla were different, as causing chaos there did not affect their impressive feats. Rockdell understood everything from his friend's words, promising to do his best to set up a scenario so he would not worry. The deal with Seal and Desir also demanded a handsome reward for this mission, thus concluded. This part of the story, a week later, Brace spoke with Kim Ju-Hyuk and discovered that he was requesting to leave the school yet again. Brace was quite confused, but our protagonist explained he already had permission to leave the school once more. If he performed well on the exams, he would receive another chance to head out. Kim Ju-Hyuk confirmed this to his friend. Not wanting to miss the chance to check his final grades, the spectacled man asked. Where the protagonist was heading, wrapping up this quick scene, the setting. Then shifted to Suwon province. Ju-Hyuk was already heading toward his destination, checking his phone for the map, which seemed extremely close now. Suddenly, a chilling voice called out to him. It was Desura Ventric with a terrifying look in his eyes, saying it was an absolute pleasure to meet him, concluding. This chapter, our next scene begins in the market of Area 7. The boss, Black Cat, was closely observing his enterprise from high up on a building. Deeply focused while wearing his highly intimidating black mask, suddenly he spotted something that immediately put him on high alert. A constellation on the other side demanded to know when the ring would finally arrive. Black Cat responded, explaining it was already on its way through the standard procedures before arriving via the portal. The ruler on the other side remarked that he was utterly insane. Black Cat wondered what was going on. At the request of the former black feline, he had been researching whether this was indeed a real artifact from the era of destruction, but this intense reaction was unprecedented. Suddenly, a strange noise nearby caught his attention as a black box materialized directly through the magical portal. Black Cat quietly celebrated its arrival, knowing it would surely appease those concerned with its contents. He carefully began opening the box, and soon the highly magical ring was revealed. He immediately informed the waiting constellation that the artifact had arrived, but there was no response, leaving him quite puzzled. A message soon popped up saying they were present, repeating itself uncontrollably. Ending this chilling scene, elsewhere in the story, back in the quiet province of Suwon, Ju-Hyuk demanded to know who he was. The annoying man mocked him, sneering that he had no business knowing that. Ju-Hyuk easily guessed the man wanted something from him, and he was entirely correct. There was simply no other reason to meet out in this remote, massive mountain. The protagonist bluntly asked if the intention was to eliminate him, receiving an immediate, chilling yes. The man explained it was not just his talk about good intuition. Anyone could easily see right through his actual intentions. Ju-Hyuk actually figured it out days ago, and now Desura Evendrich completely lost his cool, calling him pretty foolish and petty for Valhalla's #1. With that, he charged straight forward, determined to test his limits. He yelled not to disappoint him while preparing a massive, heavy strike. But shockingly, Ju-Hyuk dodged the devastating blow without even trying, sending his opponent crashing into a nearby tree. The arrogant guy groaned in immense pain right after. His fist had literally shattered the thick wooden trunk in half, bringing the whole thing crashing down. Desura weakly barked out that Ju-Hyuk was just lucky, or else he would be dead. But Ju-Hyuk just laughed it off, calling the attack way too slow. He completely dismissed the luck excuse, though he knew there was a catch. This opponent was definitely strong, maybe even on a higher tier than Asuk. Blocking a direct hit like that with his current body was risky. Instead, his strategy to win this fight was going to be pretty simple. Suddenly, Ju-Hyuk turned and took off running, leaving his opponent completely baffled by the sudden retreat, forcing him to give chase. To Desura, running away was actually the smart move for Ju-Hyuk, because he would have been beaten to a bloody pulp otherwise. But let's be real, this persistent brat wasn't letting him escape. Out of nowhere, Ju-Hyuk stops dead in his tracks and asks if his opponent even has a brain. Before Desura can process that, he realizes a fist is already inches from his face, completely catching him off guard. The heavy fist connects flush, straight to his face. The impact is absolutely insane, sending him flying backward across the clearing. He crashes hard, then, as he slowly struggles to open his eyes, he is met with a truly terrifying sight looming directly over him. Ju-Hyuk's foot is coming down fast, aiming right for his head. He barely rolls away in time, dodging a strike that would have ended him. The ground beneath literally shatters from the pure force of the impact. Kim Ju-Hyuk is genuinely impressed that the guy actually managed to dodge it. Hearing this, Dizzer is absolutely furious and demands to know exactly what he just did. Kim Ju-Hyuk simply reminds him of his rank in Valhalla, which he seriously should have known. This only fuels his rage as he faces this overwhelming power. Meanwhile, the scene shifts over to the prestigious Evendrich family estate. Years ago, they used the young blonde boy's talent to elevate their status. That talent was a highly unique, innate affinity for absorbing powerful elixirs. He could down any potion without experiencing a single side effect. Because of this, his parents fed him incredibly expensive draft potions. Suddenly, the glass bottle slips from his hands and shatters on the floor. By 16, the young boy was already vastly stronger than a grown adult. His family wanted to use his strength to gain high royal recognition. But as Dizzer stares blankly at his parents, things take a dark turn. His expression suddenly twists into a completely psychotic grin. It became clear he refused to spend his entire life under there. The flashback is grim. His dead father lies sprawled in mud. Dizura Ventric's massive power meant he no longer cared about family approval. None of it. Suddenly, his furious sister enters the scene. She is seething pure rage. He was definitely a thorn in their side. Eventually, a fake family patriarch kicked him out. He was completely exiled. But he didn't care. Money solved all his problems, literally every single one, and cutting those ties made him even bolder than before. So when a massive hit request came in from Rockdale Ventric, with huge cash, he took it, but Kim Ju-Hyuk interested him more. The kid topped the Valhalla Academy entrance exam, but rumors claimed he was a complete lunatic who kicked out every single guild scout. What fun, toying with a wild card like that was perfect entertainment. But here is the crazy part, nobody actually knows who this guy really is. Snapping out of his daydream, Kim Ju-Hyuk calls him. Dizura asks what kind of cheat drugs the orphan used to get so strong. Elixirs are way too expensive for a beggar. This leaves him totally baffled. Soon, he just bursts out laughing at the ridiculous accusation. Steroids, really? The guy genuinely thinks he is some drug cheat, but Dizura Ventric doesn't care about his laughter and demands answers. Tell me, how did you get so strong? Well, Kim Ju-Hyuk replies that his power comes from pure, intense training, no drugs. Just brutal daily workouts. He even compares Dizura Ventric to a warrior named Osuk, but honestly, comparing a built beast to a junkie is a massive insult. Hearing this, Dizura completely loses his mind. Enraged, infuriated, he wants to crush him. He prepares to strike. Lacking the energy for his ultimate trump card, he draws his magic sword anyway. Kim Ju-Hyuk just watches, entirely unimpressed by his weak mana. The assassin feels his power swell. He boasts loudly, challenging our hero to a final battle. He won't let him escape. But mid-speech, a brutal punch slams straight into his ugly face. Standing over him, Kim Ju-Hyuk mocks his stupidity. Why wait? No. Smart opponent lets you prep an attack. Dizura Ventric flies backward. Screaming in pure pain, relentless, our hero instantly charges him again, to land another heavy, devastating hit right on his pathetic jaw. The assassin's shrieks of agony grow louder with each relentless blow. Stop, please stop. Dizura desperately begs him to calm down now. But he is completely dazed, barely clinging to consciousness. Our hero angrily snaps that he is not allowed to pass out yet. A simple quarrel could be forgiven, but his sinister background means there is absolutely no room for mercy or a quick pardon. Besides, Kim Ju-Hyuk still has some burning questions. Looking up with a bloody, broken face, Dizura listens as our hero tells him to brace himself. Another painful punch is coming, closing this scene. Next, we cut to the grand dorms of the massive academy. Right inside Rockdale Ventric's quiet private room, the arrogant little brat assumes that Der Ventric has already dealt with Kim Ju-Hyuk. Knowing his senior's brutal nature, he probably even killed him right then. Cleaning up after discern is always a pain, but at least it was off campus. This absolute peace of mind leaves Rockdell feeling incredibly relieved. Suddenly, he barks orders at his assistant, Julia DePaul, who immediately answers. Fetch a car immediately, he orders her, and she agrees without a second of hesitation. Just then, a familiar, sharp ringtone echoes loudly from his phone. It is none other than Discern, calling at what seems like the absolute perfect moment. He eagerly asks if Hyung finished him off. Silence, no response. A heavy, suffocating silence hangs on the line as Rockdell calls out again. Rockdell calls for him again, only to hear a truly horrifying, desperate groan echo back. Those agonizing, painful screams do not stop for even a single second. Suddenly, a cold voice speaks, making Rockdell's blood run completely ice cold. It is Kim Ju-Hyuk, quiet, calmer than ever. He translates Dezura's whimpering, saying he wants you to burn some incense. He tells him to burn 2 sticks of incense, then wait for his terrifying arrival. With that chilling, final warning delivered, our protagonist tries to call him back. But all he hears is a sharp, sudden click as the call abruptly cuts off entirely. This leaves him incredibly annoyed at Raquel Ventry's absolute lack of manners. Hanging up on him without even saying goodbye is just straight-up trash behavior. Now he must figure out exactly what to do with the unconscious, heavily beaten Dara Ventric. Meanwhile, far away in a luxury room, warm tea is currently being poured elegantly. It is served beautifully. Julia DePaul informs her annoying boss it is ready. He remains completely silent, staring blankly without uttering a single word. When she politely tries to prompt him again, he quickly cuts her off with arrogance. She quietly accepts his highly offensive, arrogant words. Leaving the tea behind, she departs immediately. Rockdell freezes. He absolutely cannot stop thinking about his powerful, terrifyingly strong enemy, Kim Ju-Hyuk. How could he possibly defeat Dezura, especially after all those highly challenging incidents with Larrick? Now he finally knows who is behind everything, and the entire realization is truly horrifying. Worse than that, it looks like Dezura completely ruined their entire master plan of domination. Once the news reaches the family, things will spiral out of control. Oh, the denial is incredibly real as he frantically tries to downplay this massive situation. Kim Ju-Hyuk is just a commoner, he cannot possibly reach us. Ultimately, the blonde boy decides it is best to keep completely silent and lay low. With his desperate thoughts concluded, let us head right back to the forest. Kim Ju-Hyuk and Brace are currently traveling together. They converse telepathically, discussing Dara Ventric's incredibly cunning schemes. Since there is absolutely nothing they can do right now, they must wait and watch. Brace, adjusting his odd glasses, asks why Kim Ju-Hyuk didn't just kill that arrogant show-off. He replies that past conflicts should not dictate the present. Brace understands, but another burning question immediately sparks his curiosity. Dezura's magic, it felt familiar. That power felt oddly familiar, leaving Kim Ju-Hyuk deeply confused. He talked about this. Brace explained that although nothing was confirmed, he had definitely felt it before, mentally talking with him. Kim Ju-Hyuk replied that 300 years ago, monsters sacrificed dogs and cows to perform dark magic. Brace mocked Kim Ju-Hyuk, claiming he lacked the necessary skill to read different people through magic, calling him quite incompetent indeed. This insult annoyed him, so he asked if the sword's hidden side that Dezura Ventric mentioned was connected to that power, but Brace gave a vague maybe, ending their mental chat. Then Kim Ju-Hyuk demanded to know who sent this show-off brat. The boy just groaned in pure pain and unable to speak. Kim Ju-Hyuk realized that Dezura Ventric's jaw was totally dislocated from his previous beating. He quickly positioned both of his thumbs directly inside the boy's mouth and warned him of the pain he was about to feel before yanking the jaw back with all his strength. Afterward, he demanded to know who actually gave The order to Desura Ventric. The boy remained silent, thinking deeply for a moment. Kim Ju-Hyuk stared him down with an incredibly serious expression and heavily urged him to answer, explaining he fixed his jaw just for this, before threatening him, warning that staying quiet was definitely not his best option at this moment. Desura Ventric asked why he was grabbing his fingers. Kim Ju-Hyuk suddenly made a brutal twist. Talk about painful. The boy screams in pure agony as his fingers are completely snapped. Kim Ju-Hyuk threatens him to get his answers, and Desura Ventric finally broke, admitting his brother sent him on this exact mission. Kim Ju-Hyuk already highly suspected that it was him. Same troublesome punk who stirred up trouble before. He immediately demanded to know everything about his background, since he clearly did not belong to Valhalla itself. Desura Ventric mumbled a reply, then threatened him, claiming he would definitely regret this. After hearing this weak threat, Kim Ju-Hyuk snapped two more of the boy's painful fingers. He then revealed that Desura belonged to the first species, working as a mercenary, handling dirty work. Kim Ju-Hyuk had actually heard of this particular group before, and mocked him, calling him a cheap thug paid to do dirty deeds. Desura replied that Kim Ju-Hyuk saw everyone as mere trash and was just incredibly lucky. He then also revealed that their revered constellation was actually the dark, hidden side of the legendary sword, and he naturally held a direct contract with it too. He boasted that with 30 more seconds to charge his magic, the outcome of their fight would be completely different. Kim Ju-Hyuk told Desura he talked far too much, and he would have actually let him go if he just named his employer without wasting time. Once again, he shoved his thumbs deep inside the boy's mouth, telling him he looked much better completely silent while dislocating his jaw once more, bringing an end to this brutal interrogation. Later on, a huge flood of messages popped up on Kim Ju-Hyuk's phone, confirming indeed that those mercenaries were incredibly dangerous. Still, the protagonist was annoyed because he still lacked his old notes, while Rochdale Ventric kept trying hard to frame him. Schemes immediately filled his mind on how to ruin that arrogant show-off's life, concluding that he should deal with him using some modern methods, starting with a recording. He had all of Desura's confessions and needed a spot to publish them fast. Right then, Kim Ju-Hyuk made a quick phone call to his teacher, who was pretty shocked to hear from him. She honestly thought he was finally agreeing to be her assistant, but that wasn't it. He wanted to know if she knew any famous, high-profile journalists, bringing a tense end to the chapter. Soon, word spread about the assassination attempt pulled off by the Ventric family against a Valhalla student. Dozens of news outlets highlighted this crazy situation. Online users quickly started putting the facts together in viral forum posts. Naturally, Kim Ju-Hyuk's name leaked across social media, linking him directly to the incident. He was quite pleased with this digital battle. Race even praised his quick grip on modern culture. But Kim Ju-Hyuk shrugged it off as pure hard work and endless research. Reading forums and following the news, all of that struggle had finally shaped him into the guy he was today. He saw the whole board. Still, there was one little detail. Barty didn't get it. Kim Ju-Hyuk explained his goal was destroying Rochdale, but the media coverage dragged his entire family down. Those reporters his teacher recommended were absolute heavyweights, causing the entire story to gain crazy traction. And trust me, the massive fallout forced the Ventric family into absolute damage control. The family head stepped up to speak, looking pretty stressed out. As cameras flashed relentlessly, right away she issued a deep apology to both the injured student and Valhalla Academy before stating their stance. She laid out the official position of the Ventric family regarding the crisis. It was argued that Desura acted completely on his own rogue rebellion and had already been cast out. As for his recorded confession, she claimed he only blamed Rochdale to escape his own mess. Because of that, she insisted the family had absolutely no involvement. Still, since the crime was committed by a former member, she felt a strong moral obligation to personally step in and fix things. With that declared, the family head announced her plan to pay a personal visit to the victim, while hinting that Rockdale Ventrick might actually be linked to the perpetrator in some minor way. So he was heading home, where a prosecutor's investigation was set to clear up any lingering doubts. The moment she finished speaking, the paparazzi swarmed again with cameras flashing. The family head immediately walked off, completely ignoring any questions about her apology to the victim. Meanwhile, Rockdale watched it all on his phone, and man, he was seething, looking absolutely furious at how out of hand this entire situation had gotten. Right then, a call from his father flashed on the screen. He picked up immediately, only to hear his father ordering him to pack up and return to England, effective right now. It was a direct family order, leaving him no room to argue. Once he hung up, he absolutely lost it, cursing everyone in sight. A terrified Julia DePaulis brings this shocking scene to a close. Meanwhile, they pressured Dare to reveal who is behind everything, and he insisted the Ventrick family had nothing to do with it, claiming he was behind the crime. Kim Ju-Hyuk was actually pretty impressed that the boy was swallowing his pride. Dairo utterly despised the Ventrick family. Our protagonist wondered who would apologize to him personally, as the entire situation had already become quite awkward. Suddenly he sensed something, and his gut is never wrong. He was already near the faculty office, wondering if class ended early, unsure of whom to ask. So he headed straight for the Valhalla Cafe. The gray-haired teacher was in a great mood, but Kim Ju-Hyuk shot her down with a flat no, already knowing she was about to ask him to be her assistant. It was just too obvious. She then asked why he had even called her busy self. She was stunned, secretly hoping for a romantic rendezvous, only to get immediately and harshly scolded by Kim Ju-Hyuk. She pouted at his words since they were far from respectful, but he pointed out that they had always spoken to each other this way, and she had to agree. Explained his call was actually out of gratitude rather than boredom, thanking the journalist, offering her some rare information on monsters, which she was absolutely thrilled to hear, but of course, it came with a catch that she accepted on the spot. It was an easy favor, granting him a day off from school. The teacher still tried to coax him into becoming her assistant, but she failed completely. But now, our scene shifts entirely as we journey to the freezing northern Pacific, aboard the transport ship, a L-08. Dezura sat locked in a cell, absolutely fuming because he never, ever expected to be thrown onto a vessel and treated like mere cargo, destined to be transferred to the Tower Prison, a facility right in the middle of the ocean. This towering fortress, built by an S-class constellation, isolated refuge that stripped contractors of their powers, but Dezura did not care about that. He only stayed silent to protect Rockdale and prevent him from being kicked out of the prestigious Ventrick family, while securing a 5-year reduction on his sentence. To him, 5 measly years was nothing, but suddenly he heard a loud noise nearby. A blinding red light flashed past him, completely unidentifiable. Then a figure materialized in front of Dezura. Get ready. This unexpected intruder was Cook, who immediately plunged a sharp dagger deep into Dezura's stomach. He just stood there, staring coldly while gripping the hilt tightly with his right hand, wishing for Dezura's immediate death, saying, "Their elite species had no use for weaklings." Dezura groaned in pure agony from the brutal abdominal wound, quickly collapsing face first onto the cold floor. Unable to endure it, Cook just watched him with zero intention of helping. Meanwhile, over at the Grand Ventrick mansion, the matriarch was absolutely boiling with rage over the recent disaster, glaring fiercely down at Rockdale Ventrick and his father, Eden Ventrick. First, she called out the arrogant boy directly, and he answered without hesitation. She asked what he was going to do, leaving him utterly confused. He quickly responded with, An apology, but to her, it was useless. Sheer scale of the disaster, apologies were not going to fix this mess. The angry matriarch then ordered Rochdale Ventrick to explain exactly why he had. He committed such a malicious act and did so without any hesitation. Ending that part of the conversation after his explanation, she stared at him. She knew he wanted to handle Kim Ju-Hyuk, and he was right about it. Still, she was furious because his entire explanation felt so shallow and petty. It turned out Rochdale acted alone simply because he falsely believed Kim Ju-Hyuk had insulted the Ventrick family, but it was just his own wounded pride. In the end, he had dragged their family name through the mud. The leader was still completely undecided on what punishment she should give the arrogant boy, making him grow incredibly desperate and panicked. He quickly swore he would do absolutely anything to restore the family honor. But the leader found his desperate pleas completely meaningless in that moment, since the only real way to claim the Ventrick name was by expelling him immediately. Hearing this, the boy's father protested loudly, arguing that expulsion was far too severe, so she asked Eden Ventrich if he wanted to be kicked out instead, leaving him completely nervous and silent. He had absolutely nothing to say. Honestly, she wanted the boy gone for good. But doing that right away would make it incredibly obvious that Rochdale Ventrick was guilty of hiring Desura for the assassination attempt. She calmly prepared to speak to him. She called his name out loud, kneeling right before her in absolute silence. She told him he was spared from expulsion for now, ordering him back to Valhalla. Go quietly, she would reconsider everything only after his match with Kim Ju-Hyuk. Hearing this, a relieved Rochdale Ventrick thanked her with a deep bow. She then ordered Eden to watch his useless son very closely from now on. His own standing depended entirely on the kid, and he quickly agreed to it. Dismissing them cold, she watched them leave the room without another word. The two walked out with incredibly tense expressions. Eden quickly cornered his son, demanding he stay completely quiet and stop acting so reckless. But the truth was, his father did not understand her real threat. Rochdale Ventrick was absolutely getting kicked out sooner rather than later. With the media watching, they just could not act right away. But once things quiet down, the truth will drop like a bomb. Before that could happen, he needed to make his final move. Since no one was left to stop him, he demanded his father's help. Eden relented, warning him to be extremely cautious this time, and he agreed. That wraps up that tense family drama. Now, let's jump ahead a few days. We find ourselves at Valhalla Academy, inside a quiet interview room. A teacher is explaining some unexpected news directly to Kim Ju-Hyuk. The powerful head of the Ventrick family wants to personally apologize to him. But the boy instantly objects, pointing out that his group was never involved. She made their complete innocence very clear earlier. The professor counters that it is still incredibly smart to accept it. Besides, the formidable woman is likely already traveling to Korea. Kim Ju-Hyuk figures the family just wants to handle things privately. They are probably coming to sweep the mess under the rug. No other options left. Honestly, he found it pretty irritating. Next, the professor shares his and instructor Lee Sang-chul's concerns about the situation, adding that under official event protocols, Valhalla student was viciously attacked, and the culprit confessed to being hired by someone, but wait, he couldn't believe their attempts to save their reputation by throwing out the evidence, even though they seemed way too busy trying to cover up the truth to keep students safe either. Rochdale Ventrich or the family leader had to be expelled, but according to the professor, their family had donated massive amounts of money to the academy in the past. Still, he doubted Valhalla's funds came entirely from these donations, meaning the school might just look away if they paid enough. Kim Ju-Hyuk fully understood everything his professor was hinting at, confirming that he would personally have a chat with the family head. The professor was completely stunned. by the young man's sudden reaction. It was so incredibly calm. Kim Ju-Hyuk just shrugged, saying he has always been this way. Suddenly, there echoed a knock at the door. The professor noted that the family head had arrived, and he would let her in, leaving the two of them to have a good conversation. He quickly opened the door, bowing deeply the very second he saw her, welcoming the guest with a respectful greeting, which she returned with genuine gratitude. Entering the room slowly, she met Kim Ju-Hyuk's gaze. Adelia Ventrich introduced herself and welcomed the young man, who calmly greeted her back in return. Now Adelia Ventrich sits directly across from Kim Ju-Hyuk, watching him closely. The two of them stare silently at each other before she immediately brings up the incident with Dara, offering a deeply sincere and formal apology, but Kim Ju-Hyuk simply retorted that since Dara was being expelled, things were acceptable for now. She admitted she had heard rumors about Rodel Ventrich causing trouble for him too, to which he calmly replied that it only happened once and was already in the past. She quickly pointed out that Rodel Ventrich had absolutely nothing to do with this incident, meaning there would be no public statements, according to him. Adelia then stated she needed to have a serious conversation with Kim Ju-Hyuk about this whole case. She emphasized releasing an official statement, but the media and the public were barely paying attention. Kim Ju-Hyuk silently agreed, thinking that her family was notorious for lying, which was why nobody believed a word. So she proposed creating an opportunity to clear up the misunderstanding, then asked if Kim Ju-Hyuk could possibly help them out, which he immediately rejected with a flat no. Still, she kept trying to persuade him, promising that if he helped just this once, she would guarantee full backing through his graduation. She also offered to recommend him to a top guild sponsored by her family, extending their massive influence well beyond his school years to ensure he became a highly successful hunter. But Kim Ju-Hyuk asked if making a statement would truly settle everything. It was pretty clear. They offered massive cash just to buy his silence. Talk about desperate. Adelia Ventrich's face grew incredibly serious upon hearing this blunt callout. Kim Ju-Hyuk calmly explained his irritation, pointing out they were desperately trying to bury the truth, and his associates would never support such cheap actions. No rewards. He only wanted to see them disgraced. Adelia Ventrich is absolutely furious. Rodel Ventrich really brought chaos upon them. She instantly transforms. There is no way she will let him speak like that. Hating being treated like a peasant, she fumes, but Kim Ju-Hyuk just mocks her with a grin. He laughs. She is finally showing her true, ugly colors under pressure. Adelia claims she only came to make things incredibly easy, but she only got arrogance instead. Right now she wants him dead. She truly wanted to be generous, but that is over. He threw away her generosity, yet Kim Ju-Hyuk continues to goad her. Attack me, he dares. This open provocation pushes her way over the edge into pure rage. He brings up her public announcement, claiming her family had no involvement. They used a massive bribe to cover up the crime, yet now she wants him dead. He openly laughs at her strength, driving her further off the deep end. You cannot kill me anyway, he tells her flat out, adding massive fuel to the fire. Adelia Ventrich snaps back to normal. She suddenly demands a private talk. Come with me, she commands, promising to make him regret every single word he said. But he is not buying it. To him, she is just talking garbage. That is when Ray steps in, warning Kim Ju-Hyuk not to push. The two of them quickly transition, beginning a highly private, secret mental conversation. Kim Ju-Hyuk rants to Barch about how much he hates arrogant snobs. He curses Adelia Ventrich, knowing exactly what kind of devious scheme she is trying to pull off. Barch gets his share of hate too, since the lazy companion barely even cares. Soon Kim Ju-Hyuk cools off, realizing his classes are fully done today. He decides that he can just head over to the training center very early tomorrow morning. We find him at Valhalla Stadium, walking while scrolling through his phone. He suddenly bumps straight into someone, which catches him completely by surprise. It is the cute Choi Aren, but she is currently facing a very serious problem right now. Standing there is Cho Jin-min, the arrogant eldest son of the Cho family. Talk about arrogance, he claims that training at Valhalla Stadium won't help her at all. If you really want to stay in the family, skip the weekend selection test. He claims he simply wants to save her from a highly embarrassing and humiliating defeat. Choi Aren shuts him down instantly. No way. He is completely baffled. After all, he thinks he is being quite generous. She is foolishly rejecting his golden opportunity, seemingly completely blind to her own hopeless situation. As Choi Aren tries to respond, Ju-Hyuk suddenly steps in and interrupts. "You are a total fool," he interrupts coldly. This massive insult makes Cho Jin-min absolutely furious, and his glare locks onto Ju-Hyuk. Ju-Hyuk hates bullies who discourage students putting in real effort. The arrogant heir is extremely confused, demanding to know who this random kid lecturing him is. He grumbles that they do not know each other well enough to trade insults. But Ju-Hyuk snaps back, boasting about his own authority and ignoring his opponent's rank. He orders him never to trespass on school grounds to harass other students. "Get lost," he barks. Then Ju-Hyuk turns and asks Choi Aren if she agrees. She agrees instantly, which leaves Cho Jin-min absolutely fuming with pure rage. He warns her that they will settle everything at the selection test. With that, he storms away. Choi Aren quickly turns and thanks Ju-Hyuk. He just shrugs, ordering her to get back to her training center. She agreed. In fact, she had a completely different alternative. This made the protagonist pretty curious to hear more. She explained that instead of telling him to leave, she would have insulted the boy. Ju-Hyuk scolded her, completely nuts, he thought. They quickly started planning their training while walking over to the training center. A few days later, in the city of Shahung, right near a mountain, Ju-Hyuk was in the middle of a pretty thick forest. He searched for the right spot using his phone. Brace asked if he was looking for his notes again, getting a positive nod. Even so, Brace doubted him since he had already found several relics. Ju-Hyuk explained that he just wanted to know how many written notes were still missing. He explained that he wanted to find them because of the incredible secrets they might hold. This left Brace pretty confused. Ju-Hyuk said that finding them would help him overcome the huge struggles he faced back when he was Kim Hunho. If they had met 300 years ago, he might not have killed him. This left Brace pretty flustered. Now we